Mm.
Thank you, councillors. Thank you for those online. Welcome to the council hearing regarding oral submissions. Could you please stand, councillors? Councillor Lambert, if you could read the council prayer.
Almighty God, as members of the Rangitikei District Council, we give thanks for all the good things of our district and the advantages we enjoy. We pray that you will give us wisdom and guidance as we conduct the affairs of this meeting. We pray for all the communities and the district we represent. Help us to be fair and honest in our discussions and help us to work together in unity for the welfare of all your people. Amen.
Thank you, councillors. We'll remind everybody again that we are live streaming. Please, the microphones in this room are reasonably sensitive. If you wish to discuss what you did on the weekend, that's your problem. I have apologies from Councillor Hiroa and Councillor Rokawa. I think everybody else is here. Could somebody so move, please? Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Gordon. Those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 3, I'll remind councillors of the need to declare any conflicts of interest. This is especially pertinent when we come to discussion of submissions. If you're in doubt, then raise it as a question, and we can either discuss it or not. We move then on to the reports for decision, and this meeting is purely about hearing the annual plan submissions. Before we start, I would like to point out a few things to councillors and to those that will be submitting, and I will remind new people when they come into the room. We have some rules around submissions, and you have 10 minutes, including question time. How you as submitters wish to use that time is up to you. If you wish to speak for 10 minutes solid, that is your call, but it doesn't allow for questions. I have very little ability to be latitude around that. Councillors, this is the time for you to ask questions, not for you to state your particular views with regard to your position on matters. Please, if you take a long time in getting to your question, I will be cutting you off at the knees. You are penalising other people's opportunity to ask genuine questions. I presume that that's well and truly understood. Thank you very much. Then we move to, I can go straight to submissions.
Yes, so just recommendation to receive.
Yes. Yes, would somebody please, I don't know, my screen in front of me is not working.
Yeah, we haven't got that one now.
Yeah, so would somebody like to move that, please? Thank you, Councillor Belsham. Thank you, Councillor. Those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Carried. The first submission, number 1, is from Constance with regard to the Chinese Language Week, and I am expecting her to be on Zoom.
So do I.
Thank you. Thank you, Constance. Did you hear the conditions around the ability to have 10 minutes, including questions?
Yeah, I believe I heard the end of that, and I do have a 3-minute YouTube clip to share. And will I be able to share that? I forgot to ask Kenzie earlier.
We have tabled information from you, Constance. Are you wishing to share the same information?
3-minute YouTube.
Yeah, that is correct. Yeah, there's a 3-minute YouTube video that will highlight succinctly the event itself. It just gives you an immediate 3-minute feel of it.
That's fine. That can be part of your 10 minutes. No problem.
Yeah,
at
sweet.
all with that.
Yeah, as long as I have sharing ability, that's all.
Our staff here, are you able to facilitate that?
So.
You should.
Yeah, it's different.
This isn't counted in your 10 minutes. I'm not that tough.
No, it will be within the 10 minutes. It will be within the 10 minutes. It's pretty succinct, yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, shall I start?
Yes,
Right.
the time is yours.
Okay, Dasha Hao, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you to the mayor, Andy Watson, and all the fellow councillors there. Thank you for allowing the New Zealand Chinese Language Week Charitable Trust to make a submission to your annual plan. So my name is Constance Hua, and I'm the project manager for the New Zealand Chinese Language Week. Before I play the video, just to give you a feel of what the New Zealand Chinese Language Week is about. It's a Kiwi-driven initiative to promote the learning of the Chinese language and to also foster a deeper understanding of the Chinese culture. As you know, the Chinese have been here for 180 years, and I probably a little bit shorter because I come originally from Singapore. Chinese is part of my heritage. I'm also part Malay as well. So the New Zealand Chinese Language Week has been running for 8 years, since 2014. And there are a whole lot of serious different initiatives that we run. I mean, lots of fun, practical activities for people to understand what Chinese learning is about, the culture itself and the language. So it could be anything like, using food, kai, dumpling eating festival, challenging them on trying 5 different Chinese phrases in a week. And then we have our, what we call, Mandarin superstars. And these are Kiwis who have taken their very unique journey of how they learn Mandarin. Mandarin can be a tough language. So it's sort of like trying to make Chinese learning and the culture, you try to demystify it. And so that's what the New Zealand Chinese language sets out to do. So what I'm going to do now is that I will share my screen, and it's a 3-minute video, and it should something up. Just let me share the screen. And do let me know if you can hear the volume as well. Maybe I should just check the volume. Share sound. Do let me know if you can't hear the sound, okay? Thank you.
Daja Hao, and welcome to New Zealand Chinese Language Week 2021, which ran from the 26th of September to the 2nd of October. NZCLW 2021 was bigger and better than ever before. It was fantastic to see so many people involved all over New Zealand. We have loved seeing all the videos and photos of everyone entering the hashtag 5 Days 5 Phrases challenge, taking part in NZCLW National Dumpling Day, entering competitions and giveaways, and just enjoying and celebrating Chinese language and culture. Even though COVID-19 guidelines restricted the amount of guests we could host, we still put on a spectacular opening event at the New Zealand Parliament's Banquet Hall. With just over 75 guests in person and an additional 30 guests tuning in via Zoom, Joe Coughlin, chair of the New Zealand Chinese Language Week Trust, emceed the event. Speaker of the New Zealand House of Representatives, the Right Honourable Trevor Mallard, presented certificates of achievement to our youth ambassadors, Mandarin superstars and little ambassadors. Speakers included Trust Deputy Chair Tony Brown, Chinese Ambassador Her Excellency Madam Wu Ji, who spoke via Zoom, as well as Labour MP Nasi Chen. We started the week off with a delicious taste of Chinese culture, celebrating National Dumpling Day, which fitted perfectly with this year's New Zealand Chinese Language Week theme, food and hospitality. This year's response to our trilingual children's book, Daniel's Matariki Feast, was amazing, receiving high praise from children, teachers, and even politicians from around New Zealand. The NZCLW Trust has donated more than 1,650 books to 234 schools and libraries across the country. The Gisborne Herald made a video featuring Race Relations Commissioner Meng Foon visiting the children at St Mary's School in Gisborne. There he read Daniel's Matariki Feast in Mandarin, Te Reo and English. It has also been wonderful to see the support from so many politicians and mayors around the country. A highlight was having Vodafone service provider change their hello phrase to ni hao in the top left-hand quarters of all Vodafone devices. We achieved prime-time features on 3's The Project and TVNZ1's morning show Breakfast, with a total of 58 features online, on-air and in print across the country, including major outlets News Talk ZB, RNZ, Stuff and the New Zealand Herald. Thank you once again for all your support and participation in New Zealand Chinese Language Week 2021. We can't wait to do it all over again in 2022. 谢谢.
So I hope that that 3-minute video helps you to explain quite neatly what this initiative is about. There are so many various elements. I've been into this, that didn't really work. Sorry.
Shishi, Constance, and I should have welcomed you by saying ni hao, my apologies. Are you happy to take some questions? We have a couple.
Oh no, actually, sorry, sorry, that video came on accidentally. So let me just reiterate what what the videos has covered, because I probably got another 2 minutes. So I wanted to say is that I've been here in New Zealand for a really long time, over 20 years, and I grew up in a multilingual environment myself. I have to say is that I've been actually pretty amazed by a Kiwi-driven initiative to promote widely the use of another culture in its actually very, very highly imaginative way. I mean, I grew up in Singapore with a Let's Speak Mandarin campaign for 30 years. Believe me, there are some dreary parts to it. It's, you know, in Singapore, it tends to be quite draconian. And some of the elements that I'm surprised myself in this New Zealand Chinese Language Week is simple things like the Te Reo children's storybook. I've actually never seen that, to have a children's story. This is the 4th time they produced it over 4 years. A book that is featured in English, in Te Reo Māori, as well as in Chinese. And they, you know, to get someone like Meng Fu to actually read that at schools, I mean, you know, if you want to talk about embracing diversity and inclusion, the children's storybook is a very strong illustration. So that is just one aspect. And then we work very closely with the schools and the libraries to host their own grassroots event. And the schools and the libraries, they come up with their whole range of, you know, Chinese culture can range anything from calligraphy to Kung Fu to Tai Chi to painting. You know, it just brings and makes the culture so diverse and vibrant. So, and then, you know, we try and get high level supports from councils yourself and from politicians through their videos of support. And then we also get support from organizations, people that sometimes we don't think, you know, they will come on board. And in that video you watch Vodafone, you know, a simple thing like that, you know, just to put the word ni hao at the top of the phone greeting. So every year we try to make it bigger and better. And as I said again, personally myself, I've never come across a QA initiative that embraced a culture in its many, many different ways. So the support that we are seeking from the councillors in 3 different areas. We love to have a video of support from Mayor Andy Watson. So that's one area. and another area of support that we would like is that we would love to have a liaison person at your council to work with, because we distribute this children's book for free. So we love to work with you on how you can make the week itself, the New Zealand Chinese Language Week, come alive. It could be through readings. It could be another council happen to have an exhibition about generations of Chinese youth. So there are many different ways of doing it. And the
Excuse me, Constance, we are running over time.
okay, yeah, okay. And the third area of support that I'm looking for is we are asking for a financial contribution of $2,000 towards our umbrella of activity. So I can take any questions and answers now. Thank you for that.
You have effectively run out of time for questions, Constance, but I will ask one on behalf of council. You have requested $2,000 to be used regionally. Do you have a project in mind regionally that this money will be used for?
When I say it is actually because we do both national event and local events. So we're saying that we're asking for your $2,000 to help us contribute towards this pool of money that we need to run an event like this.
Okay, thank you. I'll take that as the answer. Constance, thank you very much for your time. I have to be fair around the time we have available.
Okay.
Council will go through a determination process formally, and we will reply to your requests.
谢谢. Tai Chen, thank you for that.
Thank you. The next submission we have from Jocelyn Cobbercane, and Jocelyn, the time is, you have 10 minutes.
Brief.
Thank you very much.
So I've been here before and said this before, and I've never had any feedback. So when are you planning to seal Cobbercane Avenue? Is it in the 1-year plan, the 5-year plan, or the 10-year plan?
Thank you. Are you wanting to have questions from councillors now?
Oh, I would love comments. Because there's 22 people live on Cobbercane Avenue. The next little street down has an ambulance service, a Scottish Hall, and probably 3 houses. They have a road, they have drainage, they have street lights, they have footpaths. Cobbercane Avenue is a dirt track with 22 people living on it. No one who lives there can have their kitchen window or their bathroom open unless they want their place full of dust, because every car that goes up and down just blows dust inside.
Jocelyn, we're restrained to be able to ask
Well,
questions.
perhaps at some other time you could get back to me, because I've been here and done this before and never had any feedback.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I will ask you a couple of questions around this. Have you had council staff come back and tell you where this sits currently within our time frame of the LTP annual plan process?
I think I just said I've had no feedback.
So thank you. I just want to make sure that was clear on record. Okay.
No. Now, is there anyone here from the Ringatiki newspaper? The little local newspaper?
I'm sorry, this process means that you direct your questions at councillors.
If there's anyone here from the newspaper, please don't write Jocelyn Hunt who lives on Cobbercane, because where I live is my personal business and I don't want it advertised in the local paper. Also, anyone who's here.
You're being live streamed at the moment.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, so you are, this is a
So
live
as I
stream
came in,
process.
I asked the lady not to film me, and she
does
said
not.
she'd just do voice.
Yeah, and that is how it's been handled.
That's great. But I don't expect my name and my address to be put in the local newspaper because I'm making a submission to council. Nor do I expect anybody from here to try and Facebook friend me, direct message me, or knock on my front door, which happened after the last time I came here.
Jocelyn, we accept your view and the understandings. We do not control the press. This is a
I'm
public
talking about somebody from the press.
Yeah, thank you very much. And thank you.
You're welcome. Look forward to some feedback.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next one. We have Earnslaw 1, this is submission 17, and referring to the Forestry Differential. If you guys would like to introduce yourselves, and once you've done that, we'll start the timer.
Kia ora koutou. We'll try to go a little bit easier on you. My name is Lynette Baish, and this is my colleague Linda Waddell. We're here representing our company Earnslaw 1 Limited. I'm the environmental planner for the Southern North Island region of our company, and Linda is the forest manager for our forests within the Rangitikei district. And she's also the Earnslaw 1 representative on the New Zealand Forest Association Transport Committee. Glenn Mackey over here is the representative for he's the chair of the committee, I think. What we're wanting to do today is just give you a really simple overview of some of the key submission points that we made.
We're starting your timing, please.
Okay, thanks.
10 minutes is yours.
Lovely, thank you. I'll just hand over to my colleague Linda, who's just going to tell you a little bit about our forests, where they are in the district, and a bit about our road usage.
Hey, thanks. Hey, so Earnslaw 1 has five forests, within the Rangitikei district. 2 of these forests are on their 3rd rotation, so they've been in the area for a very, very long time. We have around about 7,000 hectares of freehold land, and we also have about 1,300 hectares of Crown Forest land. These are made up of obviously plantation forests, but also unstocked areas, which is native bush, forest biodiversity, and roading and infrastructure networks. So we have obviously our sands forest, which is located just out of Bulls, and then we also have 3 forests in the Hunterville area. Like I said earlier, 2 of these forests are on their 3rd rotation, and our Hunterville forests are on their 1st rotation. They were planted in the early 90s, and they're coming up to harvest now. Approximately, we're looking at cutting 158,000 tonne out of these forests over the next year, and that will equate to about just over 5,000 truck and trailer units. We try and capture the HPMV on the forests where we can, but there is forests where we are limited. And the average cart distance that we use on the Rangitikei network is around about 13.6 k's. That's my bit.
Thank you. So we did put a little bit of information in our submission about the kilometres of road used and what we pay annually in rates as well. Now, also in our submission, we outlined what we understand the council must facilitate and deliver in terms of rates. And we believe council's role is to ensure that community assets and infrastructure are maintained to a usable standard over the life of each asset. And those assets include roads. Roads have a designed life like any other asset, and a maintenance schedule that accordingly addresses pavement wear on roads. Now, that maintenance schedule must be funded from appropriate sources, as detailed in Section 1013 of the Local Government Act. Section 1013 sets an implication that funding mechanisms are distributed with equivalency between the beneficiaries or the primary beneficiaries of each asset, meaning therefore that it is an equitable allocation mechanism. While the Local Government Act sets out the duties for council when setting rates, the Local Government Rating Act sets out different mechanisms by which that funding can be sourced from the beneficiaries of assets. In many cases, local authorities charge annual rates based on land value. It's well recognised that rating according to land value can be a bit of a blunt instrument, and maybe it's not the most accurate mechanism to allocate funding in an equitable or a pro rata way amongst road users. For instance, dairy factories, meat processing units, timber mills and quarries have a much higher road usage than the land area according to those rates, or accorded to those rates. We also asked in our submission, how equitable is the council's proposal to apply a targeted rating differential of 1.5 to forest owners? We consider that private woodlot production may have the potential to have proportionately more impact on roading infrastructure than larger scale operations. As an example, 10 small woodlots of 40 hectares in area would over 30 years generate an almost identical road demand to Earnslaw's tree farm forest in the Santoff Sand Country blocks, which is 416 hectares in size. It hence triggers an equivalent road demand. Earnslaw therefore submits that any targeted rate would have to be implemented to apply equally to all owners of plantation forest, large and small. An exception to that would be where plantation forest exits directly onto a state highway, in which case there would be zero rating demand on the district roading network. Many of the industries in the Rangitikei district create road demand and hence an impact on pavement wear across the roading network. While the District Council has sought to understand the impact of forestry users on the roads, the same localised information hasn't been provided or doesn't seem to be available on other industries' use of the district roads. A crucial point we also want to make is that rural roads are not assets to be protected from wear. Rather, they are assets that require maintenance to facilitate economic activity over time and the economic multipliers that arise from that. So Earnslaw's position on option 1 and option 2 is we don't think it's clear that council's considered alternatives to the two options, and it would be preferred if you could. It's not demonstrated that council has considered the community outcomes to which the activity primarily contributes, or the distribution of benefits across and within the community, or the actual costs, which are the considerations that need to be made under Section 1013 of the Local Government Act. Alternative mechanisms are available, and they can help council to quantify the cost operationally to maintain those roads and to develop equitable mechanisms to respond to that cost. A more fulsome discussion of those alternative mechanisms can be found in our submission. Earnslaw therefore submits to the council that in the interest of time, the district council would be best to adopt the status quo option and to look to provide an evidence-based set of proposals at the next annual planning cycle, or if not before. And I'll just hand over to Linda to speak to our submission on the Marton Rail Hub.
So Earnslaw supports the Marton Rail Hub on the option 1. We think it would be the best idea is proposed, that it is run by a council-controlled organisation. We have obviously been using rail in other parts of the area, and having a one body manage that will work for all businesses coming in to use that hub. It will serve of taking trucks off the roads and utilising those assets. We have found that by doing rail within our business has had a huge benefit for us in reducing truck flows and so forth, and also it helps us with obviously acquiring staff to drive trucks and so forth. So that's our position on that as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Linda, and thank you to the Mayor and to the Council for the opportunity to speak today. I hope we've got some time for some questions.
Yeah, the answer is you have. I'll have one question, I'll pass it over to councillors. So one of the things that interests me within your application, your submission, you're suggesting that because you're closer to a state highway network and on sealed roads, that there'd be a difference to what you see as remote forestry servicing small roads. Are there any circumstances that you know of where there's been a differential or some nature used to illustrate your point?
No, there's no circumstances where I can think of a differential. I can ask that question internally for over time, but the point that we were making about the distance of roads used is that we are, definitely users and beneficiaries of district roads. There's one forest that comes out directly onto a state highway, so we wouldn't expect the rating differential to be applied there. But certainly it would be applied to our other forests because we do use the district roads.
Thank you. I'll open it up to councillors. Councillor Wilson, Chair of Assets. Councillor.
Thank you, Linda. Lynette, a quick question for you, Linda. You mentioned about the rotation and you said you were, correct me if I'm wrong, Sandoff was in a third rotation in some of that, and Hunterville was 1990 and was just being harvested now.
So we're starting the harvest.
So does one assume from that there is another 2 rotations coming out of Huntable?
Well, we are re-establishing, so that is always our intention, is to replant and have another rotation coming out of that. Sandtoft's a carry on from the establishment from Forest Service, and it is on a Crown Forest licence and Sandtoft. Tree Farm is owned by Untitled One, which is the one just outside of Bulls, and with some part of Sandtoft is actually going back on iwi handback as well, so they are re-establishing.
Thank you.
Deputy Mayor, Councillor Belsham.
Thank you, Lynette and Linda. Just a question in regards with your 13.6 kilometres of average road network that you use within the Rangitikei. What's the makeup of unsealed versus sealed within that average road in use?
So the unsealed currently is West Road and Murimotu Road out of Huntable.
Yeah, sorry, the makeup of kilometres.
Kilometres.
Did you do
It'll
that?
be 4 kilometres
Of
unsealed.
unsealed.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Gordon.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for the submission, ladies. Look, in your submission, you talk about the different rating values. You seem to be inferring that that we have a land-based system. Are you aware that we actually rate on capital value?
Yep, apologies. It's a similar but different. Yeah, okay.
Correct. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions from councillors?
Oh,
Thank you. I was going to correct your assumption like Councillor Gordon on the rating base, but I accept where you're coming from. But thank you. You will have heard that we will go through a decision-making process. That process may also include the opportunity for staff to come back to you with regard to certain points as part of the preparation of reports back to council for decision. Thank you very much for coming in.
Awesome, thank you for your time.
Yeah, really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next submission is with regard to Huntable tennis nets request for funding, and we have Sam and Karen. Thank you very much, guys.
Afternoon, everybody.
Just so you understand the rules, because you're out of the room time, you have 10 minutes, including question time. If you want to speak for 10 minutes, go for it.
Well, I've got 9.5 minutes of questions.
Go for it. Thank you.
We're here on behalf of the Huntable Community Sports Complex, which is essentially the turf at Huntable School. It's 20 years old now and needs replacing. So that's used hockey, netball, cricket practice, and of course tennis by the school and the wider community. The replacement value of that is 170,000, of which we've currently raised 130, and we're confident we can get all of that money required ourselves. We have a financial backer that will back us if we don't make it in time, so we can carry on. And we've still got some more events to run, including a Cal-U drive over the scanning season, some native planting to put in Huntable development, and talk of a Mr. and Mr. Miss competition. What we're here to ask for from you is for $20,000 funding for the sports hardware. So we're talking about 4 tennis nets and the frames that are removable, because obviously it's used for multiple sports, so they have to be taken away. The quote for that is 15,000, and 2 hockey goals and nets, and the quote we've got for that is 10,000. It's a very well used facility, and by not only the school but also the town, there's often, most nights of the week, something happening there over the summer. And it's in a town that's very good at supporting its own infrastructure, very good at fundraising in Huntable, and we think it's something that will fit well with you guys, and we'd really appreciate any support you can give us for that $20,000. Thank you.
You happy to take questions?
Fire away.
I'll go Councillor Wilson, then myself, while other councillors think about it. Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just for my clarity, I'm aware of where this is located. Is it Ministry of Ed property? Who owns the land that it sits on?
School.
Yes, it is. It's on the school grounds.
Yeah.
But it's a facility that was funded by the Community Sports Complex group 20 years ago.
Okay, so there's no ministry, subsequent, if I may, is there any ministry funding towards this complex at all? It's
No.
totally separate?
Yes.
Thank you.
Question for me. First of all, congratulations on the funding you've received so far, but my question is around timing. So if we elected to fund $20,000 or part of that money, presumably that is pre the new resurfacing or afterwards? In other words, I just want to make sure we don't fund something that then is not aligned to what you're doing on the overall scheme.
We haven't actually talked about when we would get the new nets, timing wise, but we could easily get them straight away and use them for the next tennis season, or we could wait and get them when the court was sealed.
If you put them in now, they could be used on the new courts.
It could be used on the old surface before the new one goes in.
Checking further questions from councillors. Councillor Gordon.
Yes, what do you do currently? Do you have movable nets and gobs?
Yes, they're on wheels, so they just get wheeled off and pushed around out the way, depending on who's using them.
You're just replacing like for like?
Yeah.
They're slightly upgraded. The ones, the tennis frames we had weren't up to 20 years of children.
So they're quite buckled and.
A further question from me. I think I know the answer to this, but I just need to clear it for the record. You have total approval or an MOU or some structure within the Ministry of Education to put these facilities in place.
It's above my pay grade, but I'm sure it would have been sorted
At the
original.
beginning,
Yeah.
we can check, but I can't imagine it would have been put down originally without.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions from councillors? You've been led off very easily here. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you for hearing us.
And you'll get a decision out of council as part of the process.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good rest of your day.
The next one is Murray Guy with regard to the Forestry Differential. He's not here. Mr. Snyder, are you happy to be in front of us now?
Oh, why not? Why
Thank
not?
you. If you go to the end. Thank you, Robert. The rules, as you will be well aware, you have 10 minutes, including question time.
Yep.
How you use that time is up to you.
Okay.
The time is yours.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. I was on the point of not bothering submitting this year because regardless, I don't like to sound negative, but regardless, council have their own feedback, and I imagine there would have been one or two of you here in this room that's saying, "Oh, why not? Why did you?" But anyway, we have to persist. And what I'm sort of amazed with is the annual and the long-term plans. They come out with a very glossy brochure with little substance to back them up, to inform the public and the ratepayers, well, what are we buying into? And then also in the submission form, the return, I found really quite biased was that actually the feedback form highlights the council's preferred option. And I think that's really a little bit questionable. I don't know how the Auditor General would see that, but actually you're trying to influence those submitting in terms of what they should be selecting. There's an asterisk next to each number. But anyway, turning to some of the options that are there, the Forestry Differential, and I imagine I've seen Earns Law 1 in here, which I know of quite well, and there'll be a few others talking about it as well. I've got a bit of experience in the logging industry, but mainly from an engineering point of view. And I've seen in Gisborne and Wanganui, the damage that it does to the actual road network as well as the environment. So that's another issue, you know, that Horizons should be sort of sitting around this table, but I know that some people would feel against it, but something needs to be done. You've got anything like, if you look at some of the forestry operations, there'll be nothing on the road and suddenly you've got 1,000 trucks in the space of a very short time. Those roads weren't designed for that. Unlike where you have milk tankers, for example, their damage is progressive, you know, but still, you've actually got to say to yourself, well, actually, should there be a differential on dairy farmers and other farmers? Because a lot of these roads were built in the days when we didn't have 50 maxes. And the council will have good records of all this information, you know, how these roads are built in their RAM database. So they'll actually be able to go along and screen along and say, well, actually, you know, let's start looking at this, you know, what's more prone? Because I would say some areas in this district particular, Wanganui is another classic, is that the road will be more prone to logging trucks than others. Take, for example, you know, something very quite simple like Bryce's Line. That would stand up to regular logging traffic, but some of the other roads up in Turitea and Wangahoo, they'd be a lot more susceptible to the damage there. So I think if you're going to do it, you're going to have to do it properly. And with that, you've actually got to say, well, actually, how are you going to put this money to one side? Because that's not in the document. How are you actually going to collect this money, put it to one side, and use it to make sure these roads are going to stand up or be repaired, you know, during logging operations? How are you going to sort of map and work out, well, when are these guys going to start harvesting and what do we need to do in advance? I see all too often that this doesn't take place. There's no comms and there's no coordination. And are you actually going to check the structures as well? Because I can cite some fairly recent examples, you know, where the structures have been badly damaged by slash. And we've got a Horizons issue here as well. And there's nothing in your document that says we're going to work with Horizons to make sure we solve these problems on the road. The bulk of the time, it's actually these structures and bridges which are removed first in the event of these floods. That's where it all starts. And that's just a start of a 10. You know, there is a lot of work that needs to be done in this if you're going to start to tax, I suppose, almost putting a levy similar to emissions charging in Auckland that they're sort of planning. If you're going to start doing that to farmers, you've got to make a comprehensive plan and how you're going to do that and administer it. So moving on to the CCO for a rail hub. Well, I'm against it, despite the I might, you know, the button might have said on my feedback form that I'm for it, but I'm against it because council's track record with spending is pretty poor, very poor indeed, actually. You know, let's just look back to the Bulls Civic Centre, sold to the public for 3.6 million, and I know we're knocking around the 12 million now. We also know that from council minutes that the rail siding costs exceed what is forecast. And so again, there's no business plan associated with this CCO. You know, if you were setting up a business and you're going to a bank manager and you're looking for money and the ratepayers for money, he's going to laugh at you if you walk in and say, hey, look, I'm going to set this thing up. I want 10, 12 million off it. He's going to have a jolly good old laugh. He's going to send you packing. And there's a lot of you around here are business people. And you know what you have to do in order to satisfy tax, borrow money. And that CCO takes a bit more work than just throwing it in a glossy magazine and asking the public to sort of buy into it. There's a lot more that needs to be done, and plus it needs to be kept independent. I don't think really anyone, or very few people around this table should be involved in it. There should be outside membership as well, from outside the district. Because, as we know, you know, a lot of people have got, you know, ill feelings about this council and how they manage assets and how they spend money, for example. So I think before the ratepayer has to stump up for another 10 or 12 million, as we have in the Bulls example, we need to sort of like look at other options and how that could be delivered. And then now sort of having a bit of a look at climate change. You know, I travel the roads every day quite a bit here in Marton and out in Rangitikei, Wangahoo, you know, Wanganui. And I see council vehicles coming in to work on a daily basis, single occupancy, and that was before COVID, and now as well. And to be quite honest, I think it's pretty disgusting, particularly now with the cost of fuel. This, you know, not even the staff are being approached to make a bit of an effort to say, well, actually, how can we start to do our part? And, you know, this morning on the way out to Palmerston North, there we go, stream of Rangitikei vehicles coming towards me, all single occupancy. All of them, most probably diesel or petrol, you know, burning it away. So I think that really needs to be looked at quick, because you start knocking on a few doors around town and throughout the district, and a lot of people actually say that. We see them continuously travelling through, and a little in private miles, you know, I've seen them parked up on a Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock in Palmerston North Square, for example. So I'm not too sure what's going on. I'd like to look at their e-roads and see what they're doing. So, but, you know, we've got other climate change opportunities, simple win-win, you know, this low-hanging fruit expression that could be developed, you know, all this new development that we've had in town, and not a single policy there to say, right, we're going to start encouraging rainwater harvesting. You know, let's look at Marton. Why not do it in Marton? You know, the water you drink out of the tap supplied is pretty rubbish, you know, so why not start to have some alternatives in terms of using rainwater? You know, why aren't we doing that, and the other environmental impacts that can have? So I'm really quite surprised, you know, we just sadly, and, you know, Rangitikei is not just an example, the whole nation is such a poor uptaker of international innovations in terms of what they do for rainwater harvesting and climate control. We're just so far behind. Absolutely incredible. I've got a relative in Ireland that has set up a plant that generates electricity for about 170 homes, and it all is powered off pig shit.
Just a warning, Robert, you've got about a minute left if you want to have the opportunity for councillors to ask questions.
Yeah, well, normally it doesn't happen, that's why I'm using my whole 10 minutes, okay. But all right, development contributions, this should be brought in, nothing's actually been done. And we got, you know, we've already cocked up $1 million in Marton towards development support. That's another thing that should be killed off pretty quick. Rates holidays as well, you know, all that money that's been spent could have actually gone to improving the city centre, which would have made it much more town centre, would have made it much more attractive for people to come in and stay, because at the moment there's not much there. You know, we've got a pool that's closed in the winter, and we have one of the highest drowning rates this summer, and we've got it closed over winter. It's shocking. And then we've got a water strategy, you know, 11 million for Marton, and they've got a plant, you know, and a sort of setup that suggests, oh, yep, we need a couple of bores, 5,000 metres cube a day. You know, what happens if one goes down? We're stuffed. And the other thing as well is the treatment option that you're going to use. I don't know, I bet you're looking around this table, there'll be a few people on blood pressure tablets. And with brine, you know, sodium levels go up in that water, and that is an effect on blood pressure, as we all know. So you're starting to introduce, you're swapping hardness for sodium ions. And
Robert, you are now over time.
Yep. And a lot of people, Alison, the other fella isn't here, so I might as well carry on.
No, you won't. I'm sorry, no, you won't. Your time will be used, and I'll call it to a halt now. Thank you very much for coming in. How you used your time was up to you.
Yep.
But I will just ask on my time one little question of you. You started off around the criticism of the council's requirement, where we have named our preferred option. Are you aware that that is the law? We have to do that as an audit requirement.
Well, that should be changed because it's influential. Yep.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Yeah. Well, I don't think I've had my 10 minutes.
Thank you. We'll move on to the next submission. Glenn, thank you. Would you like to take your seat?
It's actually early, that's very much appreciated.
Yeah, it is running a little bit early, Glenn. The opportunity to use you
with your time
while we were there.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for letting me come early. I was actually here just to listen to some of the other submissions because it's fascinating to see how councils work. My name is Glenn Mackey. I'm the Technical Manager for the Forest Owners Association. I've been in the industry for 47 years, career forester, and I'm also the Secretary of Support for the Forest Owners Association Transport Committee. We tend to represent mainly the larger forest owners. You have to be careful how you say that because, for example, John Turkington's a member and he actually runs management for a lot of the small guys. Olsen's are a member. They actually run management for 175,000 hectares of smaller growers. So we actually do cover the whole gamut. Okay, first of all, generally, we're against a differential rate for forestry. We would suggest that if you look objectively at just who uses the roads, and we actually have recommended a system here that will actually measure on an objective basis just actually how the roads are used, who's using them, and then you actually go ahead and start to actually target a rate. That system was put together by the Low Volume Roads group with SIG, the special interest group with the local government, and then it was improved by Turns, which is a research organisation with 25 years of experience in transport. And they actually came up with a system that actually measures across the primary sector usage of a road, and then you can actually start to say how you want to actually target rates. It takes into account then the rotation issue of forestry. We have relatively light use for the first 25 years, and then from the 25 to 32 year basis, this use can actually be quite heavy, and then for a hectare it actually is another 25 years of use. So that can all be taken into account. Having said that, we would recommend where possible. So the offer there is to work with council to actually implement that system, and I'd recommend you work with the local wood council who have members in this region. Okay, and we would also assist in any funding issues there with actually getting it run, because the recommendation is that you use a third-party researcher. But we also recommend please try and get as closer relationships as you can with the individual forest companies. They are the ones that are interested in actually having access to the roads. And then when weather intervenes and the heavy usage gets in there, the roads are impounded, they're actually the ones that want the roads. They, around the country, work with councils, and we actually recommend strongly that they do that. They also work with councils in adverse events, and if the latest round of adverse events in the East Coast would be an example. And the Eastland Wood Council played a major role there in actually coordinating the response from the forest industry in with the local council there. Okay. But also in just general roading work, working with various companies often is a great way to do it. And I know that you actually do that in some cases. We've developed a thing called the Load Transport Route Calculator. It was developed with our Research Institute, Scion. And what it does, it will actually calculate road usage from forestry right down to the individual road basis, and by month actually. So you can actually see exactly what roads are going to get pounded 5 years in advance. Okay. Now it costs $10,000 to $15,000 to do a run. We will strongly assist in funding those runs. Okay, we would ask that you come in, because once you've money in the game, you have a lot more interest. But we would strongly assist, and we can actually deliver to council some runs from other parts of the country, so you would actually see what you're getting into. Okay, we also would supply expertise from the forest industry as to just how it's set up and so forth. So I strongly recommend that. Consider that. There is a little bit of to and fro between the companies as to whether they support the rate or don't support the rate. They tend to support the rate where it's just on the roading component, not where it's on the full rating component, okay? Great. Now, we could support that as well. We don't support where it's on the full component. Now, I don't know of anywhere else that's done, so don't ask me for any examples. We would request that if the rate does go ahead, that the money is ring-fenced and that you work with local companies through a couple of these systems here to actually target it to where it's primarily required. To finish, I would like to comment about the proposed rail hub. And I'd like to start with a story with, I presented to a number of councils, presented to one council and was told that Forestry didn't do anything for the district. It was a parasite, was a quote. I pointed out that Forestry had actually got them a log hub, a rail hub, and that it had saved their rail line. And I was told that the rail hub had done absolutely nothing for the district, that it had produced absolutely no benefits for the town, and that it was not considered positive at all. I note here that you are proposing to actually put up a council-owned organisation. I congratulate council on being prepared to engage and to look at this. That's a huge step ahead. I would suggest you work with companies, local companies, just to actually make sure the economics and so forth are there, but I just congratulate you on being prepared to actually consider and engage and look into the thing properly, okay? The option one I see has been very low risk to council, mainly government money. You're bringing in a third party, there's a term for what it is, but I can't quite remember what it is. Sorry, special purpose vehicle. Special purpose vehicle. Special purpose vehicle appears to be very logical, spreading any risk. So, anyway, that would be my comments, and not sure how much time I have left.
Questions, Councillor Gordon, Councillor Belsham, and myself, Councillor Gordon.
Welcome to the Rangatike, Glenn. Two quick questions. The terms equitable funding mechanism and the log transport route calculator. How many other districts have you got using that? And how positive was the outcome? Okay, the equitable calculation, the equitable that was proposed by a council, and we took that and we gave it to Turns, and Turns improved on it, and we were working closely with council, the specific council, and it was working very well, and council pulled out and imposed a rate and stopped. So that's the only use for that. The log transport route calculator has been used about 8-9 times, and very successful. Well, it does exactly what it advertises. It tells you what the data is. How you use the data is up to you. We were very surprised when the council pulled out of the calculator. I don't think it was giving them the answers they had expected, but that perhaps I'm a bit biased.
Councillor Belsham.
It was a similar question, but around the log transport route calculator, how many councils though in our region currently use it?
Region?
Horizons regions.
Look, I can't tell you that. I can tell you Gisborne has used it, Wairara has used it, Tauranga, just outside of Tauranga, has expressed interest and wants to use it. So that's been all like that. What I can do is I can arrange for one of our representatives to sit down with any of you and take you through the output from a couple of runs and give you more details on it.
Thank you.
3 questions from me. First of all, you want to ring fence any money raised by this differential back to the roading network. That's one of your requests. Second request is that it only gets applied to the roading rate as a differential rather than any other rate. The calculator, I can understand where you're getting it from the point of view of running the calculator and the information that provides to council. But those councils that have used it, do they then apply that information to a rating determination, or is it a database on their asset condition?
They've used it to help them with their maintenance of the roads. They haven't actually applied a none of the councillors were proposing to apply a rate. Wairau was, sorry. Wairau was the only one that was proposing to apply a rate. The others were looking at how best to allocate, or how best to plan.
Yeah, I can understand it from a planning function. I was interested from a rating function. Any further questions from councillors? Councillor Gordon.
So I have one further one. In a previous submission, there was someone submitting that we should have almost a targeted rate on roads that are struggling, and it would be to do with geology. Do you have any experience of targeted rates of that nature where they're drilling down to a specific part of a district that's under pressure with specific forests?
Not to a targeted rate, but I will make the following comments. The users of that road are the ones that are more focused than anybody else. They want to use the road. Okay, so rather than a targeted rate, what tends to happen is that we'll find companies will actually specifically contribute to the upgrading or maintenance of those roads using their own resources. And it particularly applies to the last 5k of a road or something like that, where there are no other rating bodies. It is definitely a forest, but let's face it, forestry wants to get its products out. When the road is not fit for purpose, it focuses the forest companies' attention. So
Thank you.
they approach them and ask them to help.
Thank you. We need to call it quits there. Thank you very much for a well put together submission to our council.
I'd like to very much thank the council, and also just the attitude that you guys are taking with the rail hub. Whether you go ahead or not, that's not the point. The point is that you're actually looking at it.
Thank you, Cleve. We have indeed. So we now have Graham Munro and Diane Brown. This is the campground toilets. Are you happy to present to us now? So if you go to the head of the table.
Too cheesy for you.
Just in terms of Diane and Graham, rules around submission, you have 10 minutes, including question time. I don't have a lot of flexibility around that. How you use the 10 minutes is up to you.
Okay, yep.
And if you'd like to introduce yourself, and then we'll start the time.
Okay. I'm Diane, and this is Graham, and we're the caretakers at the Kuitiata Camping Ground. And we're here to represent the campground, and with the support of the Kuitiata Management Community Committee. We've got notes and photos, and I think probably quicker for me just to read it. Otherwise I might start waffling on and run out of time.
Go for it.
Okay. We've been operating the campground for nearly over 3 years, and during this time we've watched the visitors to the district grow and the buildings deteriorate. The equipment, pumps, etc. are old and constantly need of repair. During peak holiday time, the camp is full and facilities are inadequate to cope. Having only one toilet for each sex, there are often queues, and this also applies for the showers. This is before members of the public, because these are also public toilets. It's not just campground toilets, so it's for anyone. This is before the member of the public in the community using the facilities. Kuitiata is on the Te Aroha Trail and is the overnight stopover for walkers taking the beach option between Wanganui and Bulls. Therefore, these are the only amenities between Wanganui and Bulls, because they're going on the beach. The Kuitiata community take a lot of pride in their region. They maintain the beach access, they have attractive gardens around the area, and are in the middle of a regenerative wetlands campaign. Recently, they've built a bird hide for visitors to observe the rare and endangered species. On numerous occasions, people have expressed the state of the toilets in bad repair. Since taking over, Graham and myself have requested that an upgrade of facilities be undertaken. At one point of time, a start date was arranged only to have the plug pulled at the last minute. From information given to us from members of the community that have lived there for several years, The buildings are 30+ years old, and so is the plant that's in them. Considerable money has been spent to patch up old plant pumps, and there is always regular requests for repair, and the repairs are undertaken quickly, so that's, now there's the photos. The first set of photos are for the toilet facilities. The first one, the water from the showers flow under the wall to the drain in the storeroom, and then from that drain it goes out to the sewage sump, which is outside the door, and that sump supplies, operates for the whole of the sewage system in Kawitiata. So this backs up and causes flooding, especially when both showers are in use. And at times the pump and the sewage sump itself actually becomes blocked, and this block backs up into this drain, and the toilets will begin to overflow. And this happens a lot at peak times. Sometimes this is caused by wet wipes and nappies getting into the pump, so that's another issue, but often it's just overuse and not coping with it. Then there's a photo of the walls behind the toilets. They've been originally built of chipboard, and the paint is peeling and the walls are rotting, so whenever we clean, more paint comes off, and it just, all the moisture gets absorbed, and they're just revolting. And we're supposed to hose them or water blast them, and if we actually water blasted these walls, they would disintegrate. Black mold is formed in the shower areas, and despite daily cleaning with chemicals, it cannot be removed. So this has become quite a health issue. So that's the concerns with the toilet area block. And also another big concern and a safety issue for the community and for the campground itself is the open drain. Now the drain divides the area between the powered sites and the non-powered sites. So they've got to cross or walk around into the non-powered sites. And when we have heavy rain, it floods. And even without rain, it's unsafe because the only crossing bridge is a Makarikapa slab, which is just sitting there. It has no sides or anything on it. And when it floods, it floats. And we've tried several methods around this. Several campers have slipped, and there's no lighting at night time. The drain is about 1 metre deep, and it's not fenced. We have a lot of young families now using the area. With COVID and losing our tourists, we've found that a lot of local families now are coming in groups and staying and using the facilities. So it's a serious issue, and the photos, it's quite hard to see, but that was in February when we had floods. And with the rain now, it's not quite as bad as that, but if we had another day's rain, it will be all flooded again. So it's a safety issue, and with all the water laying around, because what happens is the estuary's not emptying, behind it there's water everywhere, and any bit of rain it flows down in, and there's lots of mosquitoes around, and it's just not safe anymore. So I don't know if any of you have been out to the village, or I presume. Yeah. It's a very cool place, and it's got a big community pride, and we've found since COVID, our numbers haven't dropped. In fact, they've increased. So that's without the tourists travelling through and overnight staying. Our numbers stayed basically the same, and over the Christmas period, it's full. And holiday times, like it was fully booked for Waitangi weekend, which is when these photos are of the flooding, and they had to evacuate. So it is well used, and it really just needs something done to it.
Are you happy to take some questions?
Yep.
I have first question from Councillor Wilson, Chair of Assets.
Two quick questions. Your 50,000 as in your submission, where does that number come from?
Oh, now, I actually put that in. I had a ring from Parks and Reserve on the Friday.
Yeah.
The submission had to be in on Monday. I was busy working and we just plucked a figure out of it.
Okay, that's good. And secondly, very quickly, Your Worship, if I may, just coming back to you around your in numbers and occupants, you say you're full. What is the occupancy to camp? I mean, what is full? Is full 2 campgrounds or is full 20?
Oh, okay, yeah, it's really hard for us to pick, but we have 8 powered sites. So we can book and know that they are full. The non-powered sites just fills up and people come in and find a spot.
Yeah.
So it depends on how they position themselves.
And they're all fully chargeable? As in there is a fee paid on each one of these, no details of fee, but when you're full, they're all fully being paid for?
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you.
And we're getting bookings for the non-powered sites. Well, I had one the other day for Christmas.
Oh, for the powered sites.
They've been snapped up.
Yeah. So it's becoming a local, it's popular for fishermen.
Yep,
Families.
NZMCA,
Yeah.
use it now, we're
I know the site, I
campsites.
just want to know more about the booking side. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'll go to Councillor Lambert.
Hey, just on the drain issue, you say it needs fixing. What? So you mean fenced off?
Well, yeah, I think it also it's got no outlet on it.
Right.
So it just backs up. There's been water sitting in it all summer, a metre deep, I might add. And we haven't had a lot of rain in some of those times. And it's just, to us, it's just dangerous.
Yeah. I should have put in a photo of the actual drain because these are all of it flooded.
Yeah.
If you see, there's a little row on the second one on the top. There's a little row of trees in the middle of it. That's where the drain actually is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it runs down the side of the road.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
And the water comes in off the estuary, and that looks like the river going up. It's actually a road.
Yeah. Just a
it's a flooded road.
little thing on the bridge itself. I've approached Parks and Reserve on numerous occasions to do something about the bridge. Maybe throw a culvert in it and a truckload of metal that'll get us through. The answer is no money.
Thank you. A question from me which may help us. Some of the things that you tend to indicate a groundwater issue in your mind. Is that associated also with the problems around the lagoon?
Yeah.
Yeah, most
So
definitely.
climate change,
Yeah.
It used to dry, like we've been here nearly 5 years now. When we first came, we could walk in the summer all around the area out the back around the estuary. You can't do that now, even in your gumboots.
Are you happy if I share that concern with Horizons?
Oh,
Please.
definitely,
Yep.
yeah. You go down into the forestry now, this side of the drain that comes out from the farms, it's just underwater.
Okay.
It's just,
Thank you. Any further questions by councillors? Well, thank you very much, guys. Councillor Gordon.
With respect to the ablution block, have you had this put into a long-term asset management plan and replacement? Have you signalled this replacement previously?
We've, what happened is because we didn't really know what we were doing to start with, we just wanted maintenance, we wanted it upkept and maintained. And then when it got to the point that, yes, it will, and oh, sorry, no, we've got no money, we'll have to put it into the long-term plan. So the community committee have done that process and we're at this. Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Council will make some determinations on the submissions to the annual plan. We will subsequently come back to you. It may well be possible that council staff get in touch with you in terms of preparing a report for councillors. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you.
thank you.
Just wait and see.
We move on to the submission from Taihabi Squash Club, submission 55. This is and we welcome Daryl and Tyson to present to us. You're becoming like long lost friends.
Daryl O'Hara, Tyson Burrows, Mark McCord isn't, he couldn't make it today, unfortunately.
So just in terms of Daryl, in terms of rules of engagement here, you have 10 minutes, including how you handle questions. That time is yours.
Basically, last time we were in here, we were talking about what we were planning to do as a squash club. We managed to get 280 square metres of more lease to do an upgrade, an extension to our building, another 2 courts, like a lounge, kitchen area. We've stumbled across a little bit of a problem because we sort of had the cart in front of the horse. When we originally went and stepped it out, thinking we knew what we were stepping out, we've now got the architect's drawings all done, and he's come back and we're about 6.1 metres short, which equates to how many metres?
About 60 square metres short.
60 square metres. So we've been running around with all the Memorial Park users groups and all the groups that we spoke to originally, which when we went to them, we didn't mention how many square metres we wanted. We just told them what we were basically wanting to do. So, you know, I guess we're a bit amateurish, but we've struck this problem anyway. So we're coming back to council to see if we can rectify it. We've also added a covered decking in around this tennis netball side, which would provide a good viewing platform for those 2 groups as well, which they're right on board with. Everyone's on board with us, but we've got this little problem. So we're trying to get it sorted as quick as we can so we can carry on with funding and stuff. We've also just had our resource consent returned to us yesterday, so we've just got a few things we've got to tick off there too. So things like the bowling club, because it's a hail site, we need to do some sort of testing, and so we're probably going to come to council and see what's required to sort that out. But yeah, immediately we're trying to get this area sorted if we can.
Yeah, so on that is basically what we're trying to do is secure the extra land we need for the rebuild. We have got to the stage where we've got everything went in for resource consent to find out when we went in the land wasn't big enough. The other bits and pieces that have come back from the resource consent are quite easy for us to solve. We've already started actioning some of them already that needed to be solved. There's no issue around that. The big issue for us is the land. We do have funders in place, which is fantastic. But again, like we kind of kept pushing ourselves as hard as we can, but we didn't foresee this one problem. So that's kind of is the one thing that we need help with.
Yeah, because we didn't actually. Well, yeah, no, we've just bolstered it up a little bit, I guess. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, so this was one platform. We've actually got. We're speaking at the next council meeting as well. We're just trying to get it sorted. So yeah, here we are.
And the time is yours, but perhaps can I just clarify what you're, and I'm prepared to give you the extra time while I speak if you like. So what you're asking for is additional land and a streamlined, presumably fast track process around that decision of council and the consenting process that would be required.
Yes,
please. Yeah. Thank you. I just wanted to make sure we were clear.
Yeah.
Please carry on. Or are you happy just to take questions?
Yes, I think so. We'll just go for yourselves.
Councillor Belsham.
Thanks, guys. So the area of land you need, extra area of land, is it currently utilised by anyone?
At the moment, there's the old, basically the old lawnmower shed that the bowling club had. I think council use it to store lawnmowers in at the moment, but we've sort of got that. That's in in the land that we've already got. So no, it's not. It's just mowed. We thought like depending on who else is wanting to use the area, but we could have taken the green area that's there right to the fence, to the entrance to the bowling club, and we could, once we've got our building there, we thought we'd be able to put in picnic tables and that, because there's a lot of people come there and just sit on the side of the road and then around that area. So if it's not being used, we could look after that in the meantime. But but we really need that land for the building and the deck sort of thing. The decks, we've seen the tennis and netball, and that it's still within. It's 3 metres away from their courts, so it still falls within. It's over the area. That's also
But the other area is part of the bowling green, is it? Is that,
Yeah, it's the old bowling club that has closed down, and they gave us their funds when they closed down because they could
it's
see
currently unused.
currently unused, owned by council.
Yeah, thank you.
Further questions by Councillor Gordon?
Yes, Alan Tyson, with the hail site issue, has that been indicated to you from council officers that it's your responsibility to prove that?
Yes,
So,
that's what came back from our resource consent, is that we would need to get government, I believe they said, we will need to get government onto that to look at the fact that they are classed as a hail site.
You can ask a supplementary question, but
I'd like to ask it of officers, but I don't want to chew up their time.
sorry, you can't.
Okay, I'll just leave it there. I've flagged the issue. Thank you.
Where we're actually building isn't, well, the build itself won't encroach onto the playing area of the bowling green. They probably had all the spray on, but the deck piles probably will. So if we're allowed it, yeah. So we're going to have to deal with it somehow.
Councillor Wilson.
Nothing with regards to the hail site. I know the site that you're talking about, just for my own purposes. Where your existing squash courts and everything sitting there, who owns the ground that complex is on?
Council own it.
That is council owned, isn't it? And you own the asset that sits above it. That's what the current structure is at the moment.
Yep.
And you're talking about that bit of dirt immediately to it.
Yep.
Which you've underestimated the size that you need on that for.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Duncan.
So it's just for clarification, the important bit, the absolute essential bit is the extension on the extension to get the size you need.
Yep.
And then is that decking out the front, is that absolutely essential if that was going to be a problem?
It's not essential for squash.
No.
We would like it to be included we have been dealing with tennis and netball a lot, and they still to this day love coming into the club after their games because we have a really good kitchen and bar going on at the moment, beautiful meals, and they would like to have undercover on this side of their courts, undercover if it's raining, and also elevated viewing and easy access into the club for after their games. So it's not essential for squash, but we're trying to include as much of the community and the users in the area as we possibly can.
The deck could be an asset for squash because you can get away from the courts, and it just makes for a better experience, I think. But yeah, you see that when it rains down there at netball playing, they head for the squash club wall because it's sheltered, so they chuck all their bags of that in there. So we thought instead of just having a whole lot of piles, they could put the seating and that under there as well. So it would make a quite a neat whole complex down there, especially with the amenities built in the ring. Yeah.
A couple of questions from me. It's just, what's the health of the club? What's your membership now? I understand it is growing.
Yeah, we've got about 150 at the moment, and Tyson's got a pretty good junior program that he started this year, and that's just...
On Monday we took on 13 new students, so it's constantly growing, and they also want me to open up on a Wednesday as well for that as well.
Yeah, we just don't have the facilities for it. Yeah.
A further question from me, just to absolutely be clear, you're only asking us for consideration of process and the land, you're not asking us at this stage for any funding.
No
and
funding.
Next question, you're appearing in front of council, you've asked for a public forum, which may well give you the opportunity, Councillor Gordon, to direct some questions back at staff at that occasion. Questions from councillors? Thank you guys for coming down. I understand it's pretty cold up there at the moment. We're expecting snow on the desert road. So.
Oh, it's all right. It's not too bad today, eh?
Warm up with the game of squash.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, councillors.
Appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you've got 10 minutes. There you go.
Let's go straight to the end here. Tanya, do you wish to join Liz at the head of the table? Nice suit.
Thank you.
So councillors, we'll move on to the submission Taihabi Community Development Trust. We have Les Clark and Pania here. Gather, understand, Les, you'll be doing the speaking.
Yes.
As you know, you will use to council in terms of submission, but you have 10 minutes. How you use that time is yours.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, thank you. My name is Les Clark. I'm currently the chair of the Taihabi Community Development Trust, which is a trust in Taihabi which was similar to your Project Marton trust that you're operating down here. For those, I want to talk today just about on three things, very, very briefly, with not a lot of detail. It's up to you to decide what you want to do with it. So I'm talking about the cameras, CCTV cameras that we have in the district. Asking you to consider shared accommodation for senior citizens as opposed to single villas. And there was another trustee today that was going to speak on subdivisions for Taihabi. Unfortunately, he couldn't be here, so I'll just mention that in passing. So the Rangitikei District Council has covered by CCTV cameras, and some 15 years old. So Taihabi, Hunterville and Marton and Bulls had these cameras. They've reached the end of their days, and in 2020, the then CEO of the District Council asked the Development Trust in Taihabi to apply for funding to renew those cameras. We had a look at it, and initially we found that only the Taihabi cameras were not functioning. So we decided to concentrate on Taihabi at the time and do the job properly. So initially we had a quote for 72,000 just for Taihabi, and 64,000 just for Taihabi. During that exercise, we found out that the Bulls cameras had failed and the Marton cameras had failed. So then we had to try and look for funding for those places as well. But luckily, we found a very community-minded cameraman. He adopted us, and for 42,000, we've been able to replace the Taihabi cameras, the Bulls cameras, and the Hunterville cameras, all for that price. He's donated cameras and his time to get us to that point. We're at the stage now where we're going to apply for funding from the Marton Township. The Marton Township itself, the cameras had failed some time ago, so there were no cameras operating in Marton. With his time and his money, he's been able to get the Marton cameras up and functioning again. So as of last week, they're working, and they'll work until we replace them with the modern cameras. What I'm asking council to consider is that the council chooses a figure of their picks a figure of their choosing, in case we're unable to find funding for the Marton cameras, which we're estimating at this stage, when we've replaced the existing network and added the new and modern cameras, will be somewhere near $100,000. We hope to get most of that funding from elsewhere. However, this project has taken the best part of 3 years trying to find funders who open on a certain date and close on a certain date, and if you miss, you've got to wait a year. So if council can decide that the cameras for Marton are a good deal and put aside a figure in case we don't get the full funding, it will enable us to finish the exercise by the end of this year, I'm hoping. Second thing I want you to consider is, at the moment,
council's researching the provision of housing in Taihabi and the district itself. One of the things that you may not have known about is shared accommodation for senior citizens. There are accommodation places in New Zealand that basically have flatting for seniors. They each have their own individual suites with bathrooms. They have shared laundries, kitchen, dining, and lounge areas. There are several advantages in this type of accommodation for senior citizens. One, there's a manager in the building who can care for them to a certain extent and look after the daily needs. And it costs about $350 a week, and that provides everything, including food, power, phone, TVs. It's much better set up for a number of our senior citizens, and it's I'm trying to think of the quote that was given to me by a woman there. It's basically affordable living for senior citizens. The building would cater for 12 to 14 people. It would be cheaper to build than 12 to 14 separate units. And a little bit out of the box, something that councils around New Zealand perhaps could consider, is that once it's built and up and running, it's normally given, the management of it is given to a charity, so that charity can apply for funding from other places to keep it functioning. So council, if they were the main builder provider at the time, would have to consider gifting that building to an approved charity, which would help you with the situation that you have now with all these ageing council accommodation blocks that need renewing and no one wants to spend money on. The third thing is we have from the trust, we have a subcommittee who have a number of the trustees plus other people in Taihabi who are interested in assisting with the accommodation exercise. The suggestion being put forward is that council provides a subdivision, as in purchases land and provides a subdivision that will allow normal housing, if that's the correct word, in the Taihabi area. And again, that discussion was going to be presented by another trustee who has much more information on it than me. But there is land available in Taihabi, in the township, but it needs development. And who knows what developer would come to Taihabi? So it's something perhaps the council needs to consider if you want to develop Taihabi. There are businesses in Taihabi that can't grow because they can't house employees. There is no housing available in Taihabi. So for Taihabi to grow, we need housing. That, I think, is all we can do.
You happy to take some questions?
Yes.
I'll throw it open in a second, but I'll start. I just need to quantify exactly what your request is. So the way that I hear it, you're requesting that we either provide or purchase land. Is one thing.
The third thing, yes, the subdivision, yes.
Secondly, that we literally build houses, accommodation to be passed over with a preference to single flat type living.
Shared accommodation, yes.
Shared accommodation living. So that's the ask of us there. You're asking us to be potentially final funder if cameras don't get funded elsewhere.
Yes.
You've said that the guidance of that funding is up to us, but you've suggested it could be up to $100,000. Is that correct?
The cost, it depends on how friendly our cameraman is, but it can be as much as $100,000 with the development that we have in mind for the Marton area. It won't just include the township, it will include the surrounding areas as well, with the modern cameras that have number plate recognition and remote access.
Okay, I'll pass over to other councillors. Councillor Duncan.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello.
So on the cameras, so those cameras that are administered by the police, they're the cameras that they use in their
Investigations, yes.
Investigations, yes. So you're saying that this isn't just replacing what's there already, the ones for Marton are actually going to be enhanced and have a wider coverage?
Yes.
Thank you.
Further questions, councillors? Councillor Gordon, Councillor Belsham, Councillor Gordon.
Hi, Les. I'm asking a question about your housing provision. Your shared accommodation concept could possibly be applied to multiple age groups. Have you any examples of where it's been applied to age groups other than seniors?
Other than seniors?
So just pick up on your comment about businesses are struggling to get employees and would like single accommodation for
I
employees.
see where you're going there. I'm not sure that council would be considered the agency to supply accommodation for private businesses. But I think there's an understanding that councils provide accommodation for not necessarily senior citizens, but pensioners and retired people. I think that's a general concept throughout New Zealand. The closest one to have a look at would be Palmerston North, Abbeyfield. They've got 12 suites there. It's going so well that they're actually adding another 2 suites to their building so that they can accommodate others. They've got a waiting list. And I must say the people that spoke to us on the day that we visited, the inmates, were very charming and very happy with their lot. Very happy with their lot. And the ages, people that we were speaking were in their 70s and went through to their 80s. And they were very active.
Again, Councillor Belsham and Councillor Wilson, I need to call it quits there.
Les, the CCTV cameras, who currently funds the ongoing and annual, I presume, maintenance of the cameras across the district?
So this is what I discovered when we started this exercise. In the past, we're led to believe, and this is my understanding right from the start, it was the understanding of Councillor Ash too, who was the project Marton manager at the time, was that the trust applied for funding, got the money for the cameras, purchased the cameras, then gifted them to council. The council owned the cameras from that point, and council were maintaining the cameras. And this has to be revisited. We're finding now that council have no record of them owning the cameras, but they do agree that they agreed to maintain them, to bear the cost of the maintenance of them.
That's my recollection.
Yeah, need to leave that there because we're running out of time. Councillor Wilson, final
Very
question.
quickly, is just around the cameras again, is the request to be a final funder? Is that what you're asking?
Exactly that, yes.
Okay.
It's a just in case
Okay.
situation.
I think that's been answered. Look, Les, thank you very much for your time. You know the process. We need to go into deliberative stage later. We will come back, and thank you for travelling down.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillors, just in terms of updating you as to where we are, submission number 12, Carolyn Bates, is unavailable due to health issues. Submission 18 from Grant Weiler, Forestry Differential. I understand it's not appearing in front of us today. So we'll be moving now to Simon. I know it's ahead of time. Would you be happy to present now? Are you waiting for other people? Okay. Yes, Heather's here. Heather, what's your preference? Would you like to go now? Or would you prefer to wait?
I was going to hear the other submission that was in front of mine, so.
Which other submission in particular?
It's about Forestry
He's been.
Who's been?
Oh, okay, righto, you know I'm happy to.
So if you're happy now, if you would like to go down to the head of the table. Heather, thank you very much.
Anyone?
You can choose whatever you're comfortable in.
I'm in the sights, am I?
Heather, in terms of the process, you have 10 minutes. How you use that time is yours. It includes question time of you. You're welcome, and you can start whenever you're ready. So, councillors, this is submission number 7. And it's a very good submission.
Mayor Watson and councillors, good afternoon. I'm only speaking on the proposed forest differential. You have linked the forest land and the forestry generated roading issues, implying that the two are linked. Well, in my mind, they're not. How are your rural ratepayers expected to engage with the consultation process when the council annual plan has not defined who's affected and where this forest land is? This is totally light on detail and fact. Was a feasibility study done, and what was the criteria? I plant forestry, wait 30 years, then receive the income at the end. And yet council wants to clip the ticket at my expense for all of the 30 years, even before my income has been received. Just try that one on your salary earners. What happens if a forest is destroyed by fire? Will the council refund from the date of the planting? Under the option 1, you list disadvantages, none identified. Well, I can think of one very big one, land use. Land use is driven by economics. It was the planting of the Santos State Forest from 1952 by the Forest Service that sheltered the inland southern Rangitikei district and allowed for pine plantations to develop on coastal sand country. Cropping has changed from mangles in the 1960s to asparagus, and now with irrigation, the assisted commercial veggie growing. My point is, I thought that council's basic premise was to support and grow a healthy economy in this district. So that is a major issue for me, the land use. You don't want your economic base disappearing, because it has changed in the past and will change in the future. This brings me on to rural roading. This must be fit for purpose. Let's talk facts. These figures are from the transport industry on Monday, 4 days ago. Milk tankers up to 50 tonnes, fuel tankers 50 to 54 tonnes, stock trucks and logging trucks 46 to 54 tonne, bulk trucks like fertiliser up to 58 tonnes, ag haulage, diggers and bulldozers with a pilot vehicle up to 60 tonnes. Now, I've got an apology to make. In my original submission, I quoted 52 tonnes. Until I got these figures, you know, this is worse. Up to 60 tonnes on our rural road, it's not better. Let's talk about our road. And I've been on Brandon Hall Road all my life, and the family's been there as well. It was tar sealed in the 1960s, and we've got Councillor Walter Jurgens on your wall to thank for that. A heavy truck was 16 tonnes. In the 1960s, there was 9 houses. Today, there's 36 and shortly to be 43. The commercial farms, cattle, very few sheep now, quarantine unit, asparagus and forestry. Now, all these generate heavy trucks. The logging down our way is seasonal on sand country in winter when they come off the clay because it's too wet. And it's dependent on log price. Nothing's moving at the moment, nothing in the last 2 months, not a single logging truck. And at the most, it's approximately 20 trucks a day in a very short season. The quarantine unit with the cattle, our neighbour who was bedridden actually counted the trucks, and there was over 70 trucks and trailers in one day. This also generates the silage trucks and trailers in support. Don't say that the quarantine's finishing soon because there's another business starting and it takes heavy trucks too. There are no milk tankers on our road, but there's everything else. So logging trucks are not the majority of truck users on our road, but we have forestry. My understanding is that you have bylaws at council to prosecute individuals who do carve up your roads, and that source should be used. This is also the second time that I have submitted to full council on this safety issue on our road. The hill and corners on this Brandon Hall Road are not fit for purpose with the weight of these trucks, and it requires minor service program to put this right. In the last training, Graham Platt and myself, Councillor Platt, measured the seal on the corner, 6 metres. And by the way, they put a white line up the middle halfway and it should be 5 metres each side, but that's not the issue. It's the seal and the movement of the seal. The hill is a sand hill. It has an S-bend on a hill round it, and the drop-off is into a neighbouring paddock. What is actually happening with that short piece of seal is the rain is coming down, heavy rainfall, and it travels under the seal to get out onto the embankment. Now the fence, at last training, there was one fence section swinging in the air. There's 2 now. The water's travelling underneath, creating an uneven and poor surface, and you get the trucks around there and you can see the surface move. One of our neighbours on a bike pulled up aside because he heard 2 trucks coming, and he said you could see the surface move. And that's a long drop down. I have been involved with one accident on that corner where I was the person that identified the 2 people that had died, and by the time the services got there, I ended up taking the other person to base hospital at Ahakia. So that was not over the bluff, that was on this embankment. So what I'm saying now is that the council needs to carve that sandbank, straighten that road, get away from the bluff, because the trucks are too big and heavy. That accident was in the 1970s, and so it's going to be worse now. And I can tell this council right here today that if an accident happens on that bend, I'll be very happy to speak to the police and the media. So a minor service needs to be sorted on that hill. Summary. The problem you're looking at now with rural roads has been created by central government by then increasing the weight loadings on these vehicles that are carving up your roads. And I think the councils have now got the bit between their teeth, combining to do with 3 waters and everything else. Well, they need another one on rural roads that needs serious work to support the rural community, because we are an economic interest, and that's the way we survive. If you haven't got the roads, you can't get your produce to market. So as far as I'm concerned, it's a safety issue on the hill. As far as the forestry is concerned, the stock trucks and the forestry trucks are exactly the same weight. So you're going after the forestry ones now. Are you going to be going after the cattle trucks and the cattle farmers next? You know, this is an issue that's been created by central government, sorted out, get a better cut of the road user charges or whatever it is, because that's what you're entitled to. They've created the problem, and they've got plenty of money at the moment. They've got billions they're sloshing everywhere. So there must be other districts like West Coast or Gisborne or Northland. They've got the same problem where you've got less users but a long area and a lot of roads.
Heather, just in terms of timing.
Just my final comment, please don't go barking up the wrong tree.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are you happy? We've got a minute or so left. Are you happy to take any questions?
Yeah, I'm happy to take questions on this subject.
Just a quick question from me. Have you filed a request for service with regard to that particular section of road?
I have got sick of doing it. I did it with Graham Platt ages ago. We even had, submitted to full council, nothing happens.
Thank you.
So, and it's getting worse, and it would take very little for a truck and trailer unit, two of them meeting there, and you can't, the only way to go is to into the bank with one. You can't go off the road because there's literally about wouldn't be 3 metres from the edge of the seal and you're down the bank.
Okay, any questions, further questions from councillors? Councillor Carter.
With this rain that's going under the seal, has the seal given way in the middle of the road?
No, it doesn't on sand country. Rain on sand country just moves, goes down underneath and makes everything soft.
So the surface is okay?
Yeah, if you drove along there now, you think there's nothing wrong with the road, but you wait until there's 2 trucks, like silage trucks or cattle trucks or meeting on that corner, that you can see the movement. I haven't personally seen it, but the neighbour has, and I trust he got such a shock. He actually, when he cycled back from Bulls, came in to see me because he thought I'd do something about it.
Subsequent question.
With these 70 stock trucks in one day, these are stock trucks going to catch the ferry to ship cattle off the shore?
No, these are bringing cattle into the quarantine unit, and then they generally go out the other side through Santoft Way. You know, so they're mainly coming in, and they're loaded. They're weighted down when they come in. So you've got your weight on your bridges too.
That's what I was saying. Are they the trucks bringing
Yeah.
stock in from the boats?
No, they're coming in from all around the country. There's trucks in the South Island and, you know, all over the place. And that was just one day. And when they rung, they go right through to 3 in the morning and then start at 5 in the morning. You hardly get poor neighbours to get the lights in the windows.
Thank you, Heather. We understand your concern.
Yep.
Thank you for coming and submitting, and we will come back to you through staff.
Thank you. Good luck, councillors. Do a tough job, but stick at it.
Simon, are you happy to go now, or would you prefer to wait? Given Councillor Panapo, are you happy to present now? Just in terms of process, Simon, just be aware, we need to, council regulations, we need to take a break at 3 o'clock. So does that influence your decision? Okay, that's good as gone. Mr. Panapo, and that's addressed you as Mr. Panapo, to differentiate between your councillor role and your right as a submitter to be able to appear.
Thank you, Your Worship. Te mea tuatahi kei te tūtau ko te whamoimiti whakatuwhire tā tātou nei hui I tēnei rā. Ni atu kia koe Richard e timatanga tō tātou nei hui. Tuarua kei te mihi atu ki te maharatanga o te tūmoaki haurani meihana, ko oki ai ki te kāinga tūturu. Me tōna whānau pani, te whānau meihana, mihi atu kia rātou. Te tahi o ngā kaimahi I tēnei kaunihera a Le Quan. Tēnei te inoi aroha kia rātou, mō tō rātou nei mamaitanga. Uncomfortable as I am at public speaking, the submission that I put in to council to consider is around the idea of expanding our vision in terms of what will bring prosperity to not only the district, but to our country as a whole. As I've mentioned in previous times, both Taramaki and Taupo have been given substantial amounts of funding to develop a hydrogen plant or hydrogen plants or initiatives. And I feel that we are in a prime location to create a triangle of service to our nation. With the development of the rail hub, the potential of having the trains that come in powered by hydrogen, the vehicles that come in and out of our community powered by hydrogen, the council vehicles powered by hydrogen, even if they're sitting in Palmerston North at the square. The idea is that we are taking advantage of the potential of the future. When councillors were first elected, I think you remember His Worship the Mayor gifted a copy of a book by a previous mayor. Was it Les Vincent? What was the name of that?
It wasn't a previous mayor. I think
Okay.
It was a county road foreman.
Oh, county road foreman. You know, there's a paragraph early in his book where he talks about his grandfather having a large cartage business and, you know, different types of horses and so forth and so on. And when his grandfather heard about the first engine-powered trucks, he said, it's a fad. It'll never go anywhere. He was out of business within a short period of time, and the companies that had adopted petrol-driven motors, or maybe even steam motors at that time, flourished, and now we have the industry that we're talking about today with trucks being on the road that we have to deal with. The point is that although there is a lot of encouragement about electric vehicles, I see electric vehicles as the steam engine relative to what happened before the combustion engine was developed. Hydrogen is the next step. The environmental cost of electric vehicles is potentially higher than that of fossil fuel, especially in terms of disposal. The byproduct of hydrogen is water. So that hopefully won't become a four waters exercise to debate over. But the thing is that I think that given that there is a sense of innovation, there is a appetite for taking a risk and taking a chance on a future initiative, it isn't out of the realms of possibility for the council to include within the Rail Hub initiative research into a hydrogen fuel plant. There are a number of things in this district, I think, that we can leverage to lead the country, and with Ratana Pa, there are initiatives that Ratana himself put into place in the early days that I know that with the assistance of council, we can re-implement those ideas, and housing, of course, is one of them. There used to be a facility out of Ratana that was run by a group of people called the Ropu Rawakore. Ropu Rawakore means those who look after the destitute and the elderly and the disadvantaged. And so the idea of creating a world-class aged care facility, for instance, is something that is, I believe, part of the well-being role that council will hold in the future. But I'll leave it there. The main point I wanted to put on the table at the moment, among others, the main point is the hydrogen initiative. So I'll hand it back to councillors to ask some questions. But thank you for your time.
A couple of questions from me, councillor, just for the record, clear exactly what you're asking for. You're asking
research.
for collaboration with Taupo.
Yes, please. Yes.
Have you got any costings or any budgetary figures or that you wish to push aside that? Councillors. Councillor Gordon.
Thank you. Warren, are you also suggesting that we should be an early adopter of hydrogen technologies when they become available?
Absolutely.
Or if and when?
Well, beyond that, it's not even an adopter, it's an initiator. Lead the country and show what is possible.
I'll go Councillor Dalgety, then Councillor Wilson. Councillor Dalgety.
Just to clarify, is there already hydrogen plants in Taranaki and Taupo?
I believe so. I don't know how much they're producing, and there are two types of hydrogen that is being produced around the world at the moment. Green and hydrogen that's derived from fossil fuel still. That's the majority, and we want to move away from that. But in terms of the amount that they're producing, I'm not sure.
You no longer...
Councillor Duncan,
Okay,
Dalgety has asked the question.
Further questions from councillors? No. Councillor Gordon,
Yeah, second one on the, you've suggested that we should be looking at R&D as a co-occupancy of the rail hub site. Have you in mind any particular partners in that, or any particular research agencies?
Well, those that we have engaged with already in terms of the biodegradable plastics initiative, there were indications there that there was a hydrogen element to that initiative. So it would be a matter of seeing what role that the council can play in fostering and promoting that.
Thank you.
You do have a couple of minutes. Councillor Carter.
You refer to we. Who is the we?
In terms of?
You're saying we are looking at in your presentation.
Sorry, I've missed that. The royal we, I'm not sure.
You're referring to other people that I get the sense of that you're just a representation of some group.
No, this is a personal representation to council.
It's
Yep.
I.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification. Councillor Duncan.
Yes, thank you, Councillor can I ask, where would you see the funding for this report coming from? Would that be something like would come out of Better Off funding, or how would you see that would be funded?
Yeah, definitely. I think this is something that central government should be funding because it is a national concern. Fossil fuels are costing us environmental damage on a daily basis. And so, as I said, there's already been funding given to other organisations in Taupo and Taranaki. And I just would like the council to see whether or not the central government would entertain assisting our council to develop a similar initiative.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We'll call it quits there. I'm quite happy to put off the 10 minutes that we're going to take a break if you wish to speak now. I'm happy to go. Go for it. Irrespective of who turns up, councillors, after this, we'll take probably a quarter of an hour break, or maybe more, depending on the timing of other people. Thank you, Simon. You will have heard the rules around engagement. You have 10 minutes, including question time. How you use that time is up to you. And the time is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to submit orally. My name is Simon Loudon. I'm with a group called RMO, and we have submitted to the annual plan process. My submission is, or our submission is there for you to look at. I hope you've had a look at it. I've looked at the other submissions that have come in for oral submissions, and I appreciate seeing them before I could present. I did ask council for the other submissions, but they said there weren't any, which I don't think is quite correct. I've noticed amongst the submissions that quite a few submitters have contested that the information that the council has put out regarding the annual plan consultation and the framing document is insufficient, and we agree with that. And it's very difficult for people to make submissions on information that's not there, and it's we don't feel as though it's a consultative process, and particularly key choices 1 and 2. And that's my first point. As far as the forestry differential goes, as a group we agree that a 1.5 differential should be applied. However, we don't think it quite goes far enough. We feel that the forestry business as a whole has to take some responsibility for the roads and not just the forestry landowner. And we feel as though any business within the Rangitikei region that accesses forestry and logs should also be levied in some way or form. Throughout the forestry submissions in the documents supplied to me, they've also suggested that other trucks and things use the roads, milk tankers and stock trucks. And how do you define why you should put the racing level onto forestry trucks and not those trucks? I wish to include in that group all the trucks going to Bonnie Glen, and we wish the council to look at how they could levy all users of the road. We understand that Waka Kotahi in the road user charges supplies council with funds, but my understanding is they were $10 million short this year, and so I don't think council can rely upon Waka Kotahi supplying funds to remedy our roading network. I note in many submissions from the forestry that they talk about it's primarily a 30-year rotation, but we would like to suggest that although it is a 30-year rotation for a tree, that the forestry is being pulled down and replanted on a regular basis throughout the district, and it's a continual process, and that the trucks are there all the time. And when you look at the information that Ernst Law 1 provided, just for example, on an annual harvest tonnage, it's 158,000 tonnes per year, just from those forests, and it's a regular thing. So we don't accept that a 30-year rotational cycle is an acceptable argument against this differential. Also note that in Ernst Law 1 figures, although they would like more information from council regarding this differential, when you look at the figures provided in their first table, it works out that the increase in cost to Ernst Law 1 is 1.13 cents per kilometre travelled on rural roads, and we don't think that's much at all. It's a very little amount that they need to pay. In my calculations, I took out the tree farm, which is not applicable because they don't use rural roads. So we feel as though 1.5 differential is the minimum level. We also feel that any business using trucks of scale in our region should be levied in some way or form towards, other than Waka Kotahi road user charges, to help remedy the road structure. Rangitikei has a large road structure, and I think it's beyond this council and the scale of the council and its ratepayers to look after that road structure. So, as our statement, RMR supports a forestry differential of 1.5 on forestry land. However, RMR considers that what will be rated and collected will not be adequate to offset the cost to ratepayers and maintain our rural roads. RMR supports council to levy all aspects of forestry operations on forestry land through harvesting and logging, log transportation by truck and logging processes operated within the Rangitikei district. Forestry operations place significant costs on ratepayers, and RMR advocates a user-pay system with regards to forestry. However, there are other trucks on the roads, and I would advocate that the council should look at how they could deal with that. Bonnie Glen's a classic case where we're not seeing any rewards. On forestry, lastly, I'd like to read out a quote by Murray Guy in his submission. He says, the question posed in your plan is around how we can reduce the impact of climate change on the district. A logical answer is to encourage more forestry with the inherent benefits of increased land stability, increased carbon sequestration, increased incomes. Is a target rate for forestry not counterproductive in case? I'd like to insert one word into his statement and say a logical answer is to encourage more native forestry. And I feel as though having more native forestry would be better for the environment, it would take trucks off the road. It's a longer term investment and it will help satisfy council's climate change initiatives. And I would ask council to even consider landowners rating them on a different basis for native forestry plantations. I think that would solve a few problems. We don't feel as though the land is actually well cared for with Pinus radiata. I think the instability of the Rangitikei land, particularly north of here, is better suited to long-term native forest, and we would encourage that. Now, RMO was surprised to see key choice 2 in the system, and we don't think it's appropriate that that is even in this consultation document. The Marton Rail Hub, as you know, is before the Environment Court, and to have it in this document is inappropriate for ratepayers to even consider. As for the CCO, Rangitikei has had one in the past, quote, in this document. I've tried to find that one in the past. I think I found it, and it was liquidated in 2001, I think it was. And therefore, I don't think it, I'm not sure, I wasn't here then, but I'm not quite sure how successful that was. It also says in the document that it's very common throughout New Zealand, and often used as development funding sources. There are no facts to support that. There's no information around that. I know in background reading that there are significant risks in having CCOs. I think when you look at Council's record in the past regarding large developments, it hasn't come off too well. In our statement here, along the council-controlled organisations, I noted in the annual draft plan 22-23 on page 103, our states in regard to 6 economic performance reasons and financial effects of uncertainty.
Just avoiding Simon, you're just right on time now if you want to ask questions.
Now, that the council will take a measured, evidence-based, risk-adverse approach to economic development initiatives. And so we suggest that the CCO needs to go through a full process for ratepayers to even consider it, and full disclosure of what they're doing. Thank you.
I'll allow just a couple of questions that have been burning from councillors. I have one to Councillor Wilson and one from myself, and we'll call it quits there.
Thank you, Bishop. Simon, thanks for presenting. Quick question for you, and should the rail hub proceed, and that is a should, and it's yet to be determined. Have you given any thoughts of what a better management structure might be? Have you got any thoughts on that?
The rail hub is before the Environment Court, and we don't have any comment.
Okay, thank
you. Question, are you aware that council submitted in terms of a preference for carbon credit forestry to be on use of natives rather than Pinus?
No, I didn't.
I think I will call it quits there. Simon, thank you very much for your time, and we'll go through a process and we'll be able to answer your submission.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tom.
You've arrived just as we're going to take, irrespective, we're going to take a break for 5-10 minutes.
Yeah.
I can offer you a cup of tea or coffee. Can we just sign off on air, please? And we'll look to come back 25 past. So, councillors, you have 10 minutes. Welcome back, everybody that's online, please. We're resuming the council meeting dealing with submissions for the annual plan. Excuse me, I'll just take a minute. And the next submitter we'll have is Sally Patrick. I think it's submission 58. Sally, if you'd like to take a seat. Sally, as explained, you'll have 10 minutes, including question time. How you elect to use that time is your call. And
Right.
thank you, councillors. Sally, the time's yours.
Tēnā koutou katoa, good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to present my submission to the 2022 annual plan this afternoon. In the interests of the 10-minute time management thing, I'll talk as fast as possible, and assuming we'll take my submission generally as read, but however I'd like to comment briefly on the process used to ask all three questions that were posed in the annual plan. It would be extremely useful in future, and I may have mentioned some of this, to include detailed background pieces on all options offered for questions, with examples of where the preferred option has worked and instances where it hasn't, obviously. I'd note that you did offer pros and cons in the printed document, and however a link to a larger discussion document would have been incredibly useful. With regard to the specific questions that you invited responses to, I would note that as far back for setting the forestry differential rate option, as far back as 2015 in the NZI Henley Hitchens report that provided the basis for Accelerate 25. They noted that forestry is likely to contribute to increased demands on the transport network in the period between 2018 and 2030. Rangitikei, Ruapehu and Whanganui districts account for more than 75% of the total land area planted with radiator pine in the region, and 7% of the area in exotic plantation for harvest nationwide. Most of the region's logs will be transported via road, which is over 90% nationally, particularly using local roads. So we had that alert way back in 2015, and it's definitely time we did something. Potential establishment of a CCO, I've already referred to that in my submission, and my emphasis goes on ensuring that if the decision potentially to establish a CCO is taken at any time for any reason, it's important to put all of the safeguards in place for the community before they make a decision. Climate change, I've noted the work that the council is already doing, which was prefaced in the LTP on page 20, I think, so that the council employs senior strategic planner is working on a spatial plan, which will include very crucial documentation on climate change strategies. So I alluded in my submission in the main pieces that we as a community establish a digital strategy or a digital development plan that ultimately can catapult us out of a relatively low wage region into a high wage region and bring together a series of fragmented operations into a united program that can future-proof us, both our people and our region. I've submitted that the Rangitikei District Council establishes a strong plan that is dovetailed with existing council strategies. That's number one for pragmatic purposes, obviously, because you don't want to reinvent a wheel, and also because digital everything is so prevalent in our lives, and we need this to anchor us in the future. And I noted there purely as things that came up as I was submitting, some key priorities would be ensuring optimal connectivity for our rural communities and exploring fibre as the ultimate solution, because no matter how expensive it is, fibre seems to be the best option in most places, and it seems incredibly inequitable that urban communities have fibre, which is highly reliable, and rural communities generally have to think about other things. Online presence and website development and support for local businesses, especially retail. During COVID, most of us probably bought online, and I noticed, for one, that I was buying right around the country, buying things. I didn't stop buying them that 2 months. But there was a dearth of local businesses that had presences online. And I know the government actually supported, had something in their rollout of COVID packages about this, but I haven't seen it followed up. And third thing, mitigation of risk for digital communication networks associated with climate events and other disasters. So normally these strategies, how am I doing for time? Somebody tell me, have we got time for questions?
You're only about 5 minutes in.
Okay, so normally thank you, Your Worship. Such strategies have 5 pillars. One is connectivity, and we've talked about robust connectivity right across the district, and a digital infrastructure is needed for growth long term. And at the moment, I mentioned there is considerable digital inequity, not just socioeconomic, but urban, rural. Work and employment, creating a rangatiki knowledge workforce and moving us to a knowledge economy, preparing our people for the future. We already have aspects of it here, but we need to bring it together and use it and platform off it more successfully. It usually involves collaboration with 3 key sectors, which are government, local government, central government, business and education. And that's often called the triple helix for innovation, but you would want a 4th thing in there, which makes a quadruple helix, which I don't know whether that exists. But think about a quadrangle, and mana whenua would definitely need to be in there as a key partner. And once you've got that workforce and those sectors and partners collaborating, you've got a strong base for the future, and a strong base for innovation locally, which means we keep our innovation local, but it can bounce nationally as well. 3 other things: engagement will only work if it's co-designed. We've got the key people around the table. Inclusion, that's basically the same thing, must be everyone. And sustainability links with strategies. I've already referred to this, already used in the sustainability map. So we're looking at climate change, waste management, civil defence and so on. We're already doing a lot here that could be brought into such a strategy, particularly with our young people, in order for them to thrive in a digital environment. We've got the Computer Hub, we've got the Digital Engagement Officer, who I hope is still here, and we could be doing a lot more. I can't say any more because I want you to ask questions, and I think that's... in late 2021, the government asked for submissions on a new plan for Aotearoa, a digital strategy, because the old one was vastly overdue. The summary of public engagement for that is now available, and I just got a text on my way here to say that in the budget today, Grant Robertson had announced that there is money relating to regional broadband initiatives, so now would be a good time to develop a strategy. Thank you for your time and attention. All the best with work ahead of you. I invite questions if there's any time left.
Thank you. I'll start with a question from me. In terms of connectivity, and you're talking about the rural zone should have the same rights as urban, are you suggesting that council should fund fibre to the rural connections?
No, I don't think they could afford it. I'm just talking about collaboration. It's highly important. I would look at what the national digital strategy has to offer, what the budget is offering this afternoon. That massive collaboration is really important. But the thing is that there is no real answer. I'm constantly surprised, and have been for the last 5 years, that fibre is the most reliable option generally, and I can't believe that urban areas have fibre and rural areas don't. And when you've got an incredible number, if you think about the agricultural sector, they are so valuable to our economy, our regional economy, our local economy, our national economy, and we have kind of slipshod solutions.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon.
Sally, have you got any examples of where councils have stepped into this space to help facilitate it?
To
help facilitate this connectivity that you're talking about?
I worked for a long time for Whanganui District Council, who were one of the first off the block with fibre, and developed a digital strategy really early in the piece, and ensured that key thing about equity and ensuring that inclusion, that everyone's on board, means that you have to bring partners around the table, and that includes central government, regional government, local government, and other partners to come up with solutions. But the benchmark there is that in terms of reliability, you look at climate change, you look at everything else, we so rely on digital communication. It's absolutely vital that we have a local plan that not just looks at those things, but a whole stack of other things as well.
Thank you. We'll take a final question. Councillor Belsham, Councillor.
Yeah, what are your thoughts, Sally, in regards with, so we're talking about rural areas and connectivity, cell phone towers, and council actually advocating for promotion of cell phone towers into rural spots rather than fibre rolled out to one house down the end of it.
Fibre is generally not considered because it's seen as the most expensive option. However, cell phone towers do, not literally, because they might do literally fall over in certain times. They won't necessarily work in all places, and they haven't provided the optimum solution for rural people. So you've got a number of things at the moment where fibre was rolled out to schools, for example, but the difficulty appears to be that you can have fibre flying past your gate, but you can't get it to farmhouse or whatever. So there are a number of things that would need to be spelled out in such a strategy, but it would be really, really useful to get all that information, to know exactly what the problem is, to quantify the problem in our rural area, and put that information into a strategy to begin with and say that we're going to do something about it. So there's so much to unpack here, and I knew that it would start something, but it's something that we need to do.
Appreciate that. And I know, Councillor Dalgety, you were nodding your head, so presumably that answers your question. If you have a question, I'll take it because I might have missed you, but the question and answer need to be over within a minute. I'm just warning you both here. Councillor, you're on mute.
Wondering if you know what Wanganui have done around addressing this rural inequity. Yeah, what have they done in the rural areas?
And perhaps in terms of time, that's something that staff could follow up.
Sure. The River Road in particular was a real issue, and I can provide some information for that.
Thank you. We move on to the next submission from Federated Farmers. Tim, I'd welcome you to the floor. We have some tabled documents as well in terms of the submission.
Oh,
Yep. From memory.
it's actually good.
So councillors, you'll have these documents with you as well.
Submission, the actual word copy of the submission was emailed out last night, but the page that's been put on our table has probably not been sent to the councillors on Zoom, so we will load that as a table document afterwards.
Carol sent it 11:32.
Thank you. You know the rules of this game.
Thank you, Mayor Andy.
The time is yours.
I'm just here to introduce our new policy analyst that's sort of taking over this area. So Coralie Martinez has resigned from Federated Farmers and is working on freshwater for the government now. But Adrian is working from the Taranaki region, but she will be looking after Rangatiki issues and all of the sort of stuff that you deal with Federated Farmers on. So she's our policy person that does all that sort of stuff. So I'm just a common garden farmer and an enthusiastic amateur at this. So look, our submission is really fairly simple and short. It's about the things that are concerning farmers at the moment, and one of those is forestry and the conversion of pasture land to forestry. We've advocated for a number of years now that Rangatiki ought to have a forestry rate to recognise the damage or the impacts of forestry on the low use roads. Now, we all know that dairy farmers have milk tankers that call for sort of 300 days a year. but they're generally closer to town, they're on the better roads. Unfortunately, most of the forestry, and if you look at the forestry submissions, a lot of that countryside is in the back blocks, places like where I live, and there are significant impacts, and also to the well-beings of the community. And you may be aware that there was a court case at the end of April that was released, and this is the decision here. And it talks about well-beings. And when you look into your annual plans and your long-term plans, you say, what are we doing all of this stuff about well-beings for? Well, this is where the rubber meets the road. And it's why you discuss well-beings, and that the judge's decision, and it could well be appealed by the Forest Owners Association, is talking about the impacts of forestry, and it's not just vehicles on the road, there's a much wider impact of forestry that you as a council need to know more about and take time to try and find out what those issues are. And so we've provided quite a bit of documentation that isn't in the submission, but it was all here this morning, which you might want to look at in your deliberations, and certainly the staff need to look at it, because it provides an awful lot of background stuff that might be useful to you when you come to your decisions. So it's not just the impacts of trucks on roads. It's not just the impact of logging trucks on roads, because there's an awful lot of stuff that goes in and out of a forest that isn't actually logs. It's metal, it's haulers, there's a whole lot of stuff. And one of the worst things that you as a road user can meet is that, in fact, the chainsaw jockeys coming out of the forest in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. They've been working since 6 o'clock in the morning, and they're hell-bent for town because they all live in town. And that's the most frightening time for the people that have got school buses on the road, that are meeting school buses on the road. And that's one of the impacts that you never see in any other submission. And so I've put to a background sort of paper that sort of explains a whole lot of that sort of stuff. And so take the time to have a look at it and just see what happens in the reality of forestry. Look, farmers need roads too, and we're prepared to pay our share, but we see that the volume that's coming off each hectare and the value that's coming off each hectare is far and away substantially more. And if you look at the handout that's there, it gives you a pictorial, it shows you exactly what sort of income's coming off. But behind that income, that's the number of people, the number of machines, and all that sort of other stuff that goes with these enterprises. Yes, we need forestry in the hill country, but they have to pay their share and they have to be a part of the community just as we are. And one of the things that we will commend you to read is the employment situation. And there's a number of reports, that's one of them, and there's the one on the Wairoa district. They explain very carefully what the employment considerations are for forestry as opposed to the farming people that are there. Take the time to find out, because you'll find that it's much better for the district for land not to be converted to forestry than it, even though the monetary benefits may be slightly more for forestry, but in fact the health of the district, the well-being of the district is more important. But I'll hand over to Adrian to carry on and just highlight the other parts of our submission.
Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Adrian Cook, and I've been at Federated Farmers for just over a month now, so apologies. I'm getting a good idea of what's happening and learning as I go. So just to highlight in our submission as well that there's we just hope there's careful consideration to the types of forestry captured, and you have noted that in the consultation documents. We would like that forestry indigenous and forestry protected is hopefully not captured in that. And we also just want to highlight as well, and I've been in talks with other councils too, is that there's sometimes a delay or a lag in that classification against QV that won't be passed on to councils, so you might not necessarily know that it's forestry land for quite some time, and also that it might be misclassified too. So we've got that sort of feedback back from Stratford as I was at a hearing with them earlier in the week, and we just sort of wonder what that delay will mean for the Rangitikei district, and just to make sure you're aware of that issue. Also that there are other options within bylaws that you can address with regards to heavy traffic, and there's a graduated response under section 22AB of the Land Transport Act, and that's around either prohibiting on particular roads if there's a seasonal issue and there's lots of rain, you can look at that as an option, or there's also taking of security or a cost in reinstating roads, and that's a graduated response under that section of the Act. But looking at the targeted forestry rate, you might find that that's more of an applicable sort of situation for Rangitikei. We're in our further submission as well. Just wanted to note that under the liquor control reports, we weren't able to see exactly what the percentage was that was coming in for income from liquor licensing, and also what was being used by council. So we weren't able to actually put any determination on the fees and charges around that. Also with regards to, where are we up to? We're just wondering, so I'll go back to forestry, if the targeted rate that has been proposed will be enough. We have heard that other councils who have put in a targeted rate have found that it's not actually bringing in enough to address the issues on the road. And it might be a starting point that you want to at the 1.5, but there are also the case that we've highlighted with Wairoa District Council, and where they've looked at their whole rate scheme and applied a targeted rate or a rating level against forestry rather than having a targeted rate. And it's tying back to the well-beings, as Tim had mentioned as well. And I know that the well-beings of your community is at the forefront of all the decisions that you make. Yeah, you don't want to go over any of the...
You've only got a couple of minutes
Yeah,
left.
we want to take questions, thank you.
A couple of questions from me. First of all, under your recommendation under section 23, the CCO, so you're recommending there that any costs associated should be targeted to the urban areas that are surround it. This has been something that is being set up to deal with forestry in the first instance, to cut down road user charges that they face. Why would you then not consider that they should pay as a user? I find that
it's where the benefit lies to the community, I guess. So there is a benefit for forestry to have access to that sort of area, but they still have to cart them from the less well used, the low use roads to that hub. Yes, it's a good idea for the rest of the country, and the benefit is probably going to be greater for Marton as opposed to the rest of the district. That's the sole, I guess, initiative under that suggestion.
I take that as your view. The other question I was going to ask is, when you're suggesting that we should be prohibiting forestry access at certain times of the year, do you have a suggested time of year, bearing in mind that it takes a considerable time to set up loaders, that they would need to be prepared for that?
Yeah, look, it's one of the options in the toolbox, and that's what Adrian was referring to there. So you have options other than the differential rate, but obviously the pressure that we've seen on roads harvesting in Rangitikei, so Mangatapona Road, Okirai Road, are ones that I'm particularly familiar with, Kumiti to a less extent, those tend to deteriorate in the midwinter to mid-spring, basically. And that's when you try and eliminate the problem there. That's the expensive time. And I think your roading manager will guide you as to exactly what the cost is and when it happens. And I think that's the problem you have to address. So either you build the pavement strength up to be able to carry the loads during winter, or you prohibit heavy vehicles at that time and wait until the pavement strength comes back up again as the subsoil dries out.
Okay, thank you. Questions from councillors? I'm surprised.
Look, we're more than welcome to come to workshops or whatever you need to explore these options further, because we have to live in the environment with the forestry. And if you want to go out to a special consultative procedure or something like that in developing a differential, we're more than happy to be part of that.
Yes, you'll be well aware that if we're going to adopt something with an annual plan, we have a timeframe process around it, and the reports need to be presented by staff. That, in preparation of that, that sits with staff if we're going to present it now. Councillor Gordon.
Yes, in your climate change response answers, number 27, where you talk about the potential for abandonment of assets. Have you seen any examples of trigger levels and how people have, or other councils have gone through this process?
In terms of trigger levels, what do you mean? At the age of the trees?
No. This is about abandoning stock banks or land that may be severely affected, or roads. Is it the value of the asset that's being serviced versus the value of the road to service it, or stock bank to service it?
In a lot of cases, the territorial council won't be responsible. It'll be more a regional council responsibility. But there are times when obviously the district council is involved.
I'm sorry, I have to call a halt there, in fairness to the other submitters. Thank you very much for once again travelling and appearing in front of our council.
Thank you.
We just about need to reserve a seat with your name on it.
No.
And I'd say that
won't be necessary.
appreciation, not as
I thought I'd managed to retire from this job. The young guys don't want to step up. So you have to put up with me for a year too long.
Paul, can you join us please at the table? So Paul Gurchin's the submission 8 relating to the forestry differential. All same rules.
Yes, yep.
Time is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity of speaking today. I know a lot of these faces around here. I like to think they'll stay friendly. My submission, I hope you've all read it. It's fairly clear. I'm still not sure whether I'm going to fall into this category or not, because the detail around that's a bit small. As I've written there, I've only got 300 acres and 100 of that is in trees, and it was planted 37 odd years ago, 38 years ago when I bought the property, over a period of 5 years, and obviously looked after them since. It was planted specifically for erosion control, and over time, they've grown into good forest. So what concerns me is, first of all, whether I'm in that category and other farmers like me. 100 acres, I don't know what size council regards as just a farmer with a bit of forestry or someone with a forest. The cost I've laid out there, I don't make anything off that land because it is just what they class as Foxton sand from Horizon's point of view, and until I actually harvest it. And I am rated on that land exactly the same as my good flats. So I made a point there that over that 30-year period, I've paid $99,000 in rates that, on land that I cannot actually make anything off until I harvest. At the same time, I pointed out that current forestry charges, the foresters take a third and the logging guys, the car carriers take a third, and then I get a third of that, less the IRD after they've stepped in and taken another third. So I'm actually the farmer that actually gets the least money out of my forest, out of all the people that are involved. And obviously all those people that come and cut the logs, and they're all earners, ratepayers themselves, etc., etc. So I'd like to think that after 30 years I can get my logs carted out for $99,000. I think the council, I'll just make a point that I've had to, and all farmers have to classify their farms and go through the procedure of rating their property for their carbon footprint. And I've recently done that because 1/3 of my farm is in forestry. I'm actually very much on the good side. So my farm sequests 993,000 kgs of CO2 a year. So I shouldn't be penalised for that. In fact, the government is pushing for farms and any sort of land that's marginal to be planted. So I think the councils have got a very good case of central government are going to push for more planting. They have got a case to try and get more of the share of the road user charges that I pay on 2 vehicles on my farm as well. So I take a little bit different view to the federated farmers, even though I am a farmer, that we're not all Wairara or Gisborne. I am on good roads. We do have good roads. So I can certainly understand that point of view. But I have a sister out from Pongaroa who lives at the end of Sugarloaf Mountain Road, which is a hell of a track if you're trying to get over there, one-way gravel road. They are the only farm on the end of their road now. All the rest of the properties are in forestry. So every time it rains, a tree comes down and they lose their power or they lose their telephone or whatever. So, and she says their roads in the winter are horrendous half the time they can and can't get out. So I do know there's that side of it as well. Yes, so I kind of feel that this extra 1.5% is kind of a tax on potential income that I'm going to get 30 years down the track. And obviously some of my blocks are in the second rotation. I've milled and planted, but I won't see the benefit of that. So I'm actually paying a tax on income that I'm never going to see. It's just a small side effect. Whoever buys my property further down the track will get the benefit of me paying perhaps 10 years or 15 years of a forestry rate. Certainly understand the council's position, and I think we are a totally different case from Wairara or the Wairarapa or whatever.
You happy to take some questions, Paul?
Pardon?
You happy to take some questions?
Yes, certainly.
Question from me then, Councillor Belsham. Do you see a need for us to make sure we formally advise properties whether they will be caught up in this?
Yes, certainly do.
Okay. Yes. Thank you. Councillor Belsham.
Yeah, Paul, I just noticed in your submission you talk about a 1.5% addition. Have you actually worked that out on your rates? Because it's actually what we put forward was a 1.5 differential on the roading rate, on the roading rate itself. But is that what it works out to on your rates?
I worked it out at $31 a quarter. I'm not sure whether that's right or not.
Okay. I just see you talk about 1.5%. If you're getting that confused with the 1.5 differential.
I did too make the point that I would have far more logging trucks visit me over that 30-year period than I would when I chopped down my forest. I've already had probably 12 logging trucks in the last month from the sale of the Weena fairs, whatever you, and I've got bulls going to the sale on Monday. So these trucks all weigh the same because it's economic for them to be fully loaded wherever they go. It makes economic sense. So they all weigh the same.
You've answered my question.
Yeah, up to a legal point. I was just
Any other questions from councillors? Paul, thank you very much.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. We're still prepared to speak to you.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
See you. Right. We have Geordie Peters online. So, Geordie, are you there on Zoom, please?
Yes.
Geordie, thank you very much for your submission. Councillors do have it. The rules are you have 10 minutes, which includes questions that you might be wanting to field from councillors. The time is yours.
Thank you. I suppose I'll keep it pretty brief. The submission relates to the rates commission policy, the amendment that was put forward, and the dates for that being the end of June this year, which is not what I would call fair for the development that's happening in the region right now, particularly relating to Brennan's Line. I myself have purchased land there, and there's absolutely no way that any of us are going to be able to lodge building consent by that time, because titles won't be issued probably until Christmas this year, maybe even later. I believe that there may have been a mistake in the information that was circulated about this, but I suppose the submission still holds for me that this should be pushed out for another year to 2023 to enable all of those developments and people who've purchased land to take advantage of something that was sort of advertised as part of the deal for purchasing these lands and excuse me, something that we all used as an incentive to choose to buy land in the region and build a home here.
Thank you. Councillors, Councillor Belsham.
Thanks, Geordie, for your submission. I'll look at this camera here. You realise the dates have been amended so that they do shift out to 23 and 24. So it gives you that extra time. Do you understand that that has changed?
Just jumped onto the website about 5 minutes ago, and it was still the previous dates. So just sort of reiterating that it hasn't seemed to have changed to the website, but I appreciate that if it has been changed, that's great, that's fantastic, that's the right outcome.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, hi, Geordie, just a quick question on this. Is this a matter that you're submitting on behalf because you've picked up that you may have been affected, or are you aware that other people may have been having similar thoughts about the submission?
I'm only submitting on behalf of myself and no one else up at those developments at all. No, I'm just myself.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions from councillors? Look, Geordie, thank you very much for your submission. It may well have pointed out an accuracy in our systems, and if so, we apologise for that. But we will need to use this process to come back to you with an answer.
John, thank you. I'm glad we've got there at the end.
Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers.
No further submissions. There's nobody else due to appear in front of us today. In terms of staff, we've received all of these submissions. Were there any further pieces of information submitted today that we need to formally receive?
No, we'll just note the tabled documents that were given to us by submitters, and we'll put them on the website as well.
Thank you. You will note that as an action coming out of this.
Yes. We just have one resolution that needed to be passed.
Which was?
We didn't do the second one, did we? No. So we should recommendation.
What's the only one I have?
Yeah, we'll over the page.
Yeah. Thank you.
Recommendation 2.
Would somebody like to move the recommendation that council hears the submissions on the consultation document framing 22-23, and if requested, hears submissions on simultaneous consultation relating to proposed schedule fees and charges, draft rates, remission policy for Maori freehold land. This is literally a pro forma thing that we just need to do. Councillor Wilson moving, Councillor Panapa seconding. Those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Is there any direction that staff wish to give us, advise councillors around the process and timelines from here on in while councillors are together, please?
Yes, you will receive an email either later today or tomorrow about the timing for deliberations. So we've agreed with the chairs of assets and policy planning
that we will hold the assets and infrastructure meeting at 9 o'clock on the 9th of June, and that will be followed by the policy planning meeting at 11. And then at 1 o'clock, the rest of the day will be deliberations on the annual plan. So we'll send updated meeting requests to reflect that. I needed to check with the chairs of those committees first.
Thank you very much. Councillors, I'll close the meeting at 4 o'clock or 4:10.
4:05 Central Council time.
Yeah, whichever. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, staff. And linesmen
Thank you so much.
and ball boys.